February 4th, 2021, Sandra Birchmore was found dead in her Canton, Massachusetts apartment. The charges filed today in federal court allege that she was in fact murdered by Mathew Farwell 3 days earlier. At the time of her death, Sandra Birchmore was a 23-year-old woman with her entire life ahead of her, and she was pregnant with her first child. We allege that Sandra Birchmore survived years of grooming, statutory rape, and then sexual violence, all at the hands of Mathew Farwell, who was employed throughout their relationship as an officer and then detective for the Stoughton Police Department. And when it became clear to Mr. Farwell that he could no longer control Sandra Birchmore, he allegedly silenced her permanently. This morning, Mathew Farwell was arrested on a federal grand jury indictment charging him with one count of killing a witness or victim. Specifically, Mr. Farwell is charged with violating Title 18 United States Code 1512 for killing Sandra Birchmore with the intent of preventing her from communicating information about his possible commission of federal crimes. How did this all unfold? What happened here? Well, back in 2010, a 12-year-old Sandra Birchmore applied to join the Stoughton Police Department's Explorers program, which introduces teens to policing. Officer Mathew Farwell was an instructor in that program. And as alleged in court documents, he befriended Sandra Birchmore, contacted her online, went to the library with her, became friends on Facebook, essentially groomed her. And then he committed statutory rape by having sex with her when he was a 27-year-old police officer and she was just 15 years old. Mr. Farwell continued to have a sexual relationship with Sandra Birchmore until her death 8 years later, allegedly meeting her for sex regularly when he was on duty and being paid by the Stoughton Police Department. Now, in the weeks leading up to Sandra Birchmore's death in February 2021, she found out that she was expecting a baby. And she told Mr. Farwell that he was the father. According to court documents, Ms. Birchmore was very excited about becoming a mother, buying baby clothes and other items, taking precautions to ensure the health of her new child. Sandra Birchmore had good friends, she had a good job, she had dreams of becoming a nurse, and she had a child on the way. But Mr. Farwell did not share in that excitement. It's alleged that Mr. Farwell reacted quite negatively to the news that Sandra Birchmore was pregnant with his child. And he acted angrily, it is alleged, when Sandra Birchmore started making requests of Mr. Farwell around doctor's appointments and ultrasounds and what information would be on the birth certificate. Mr. Farwell was losing control in late 2020, early 2021, and the information that Sandra Birchmore possessed about his illegal conduct was in danger of slipping out. In fact, word started to get out about their relationship. Less than 2 weeks before she was found dead, someone called the Stoughton Police Department and disclosed that Mathew Farwell had had a relationship with Sandra Birchmore. And when Mr. Farwell learned about that call, he became visibly angry. Mr. Farwell, it is alleged in these court papers, started to lose his patience, lose his temper, and the 6'4" Mr. Farwell started to be physically violent with 4'10" Sandra Birchmore. And Sandra Birchmore told her friends that Mr. Farwell had pushed her and shoved her and put her in a chokehold. She was scared. And during that same time, Mr. Farwell was allegedly planning Sandra Birchmore's murder. For the first time, he requested a key to her apartment. And she told friends that he was oddly inspecting the apartment and looking at the closet, including the closet that she was found dead in front of. And then it all came to a head on February 1st, 2021. Mr. Farwell went over to her apartment that evening, and he strangled Sandra Birchmore to death. That's the allegation in this case. And he used his knowledge and experience as a law enforcement officer to stage her death to look like a suicide. He allegedly attempted to cover his tracks to literally try and get away with murder. And he almost did, until today. Back in 2021, with the information that was available, Sandra Birchmore's death was ruled a suicide, or deemed a suicide. But over the last year or so, the FBI and our office have been working exhaustively with our state partners. We've uncovered critical new information, examined the existing information, all of which led to this federal grand jury indictment. If convicted on this charge, Mr. Farwell faces a minimum of life imprisonment. Giving voice to the voiceless, ensuring that no one is above the law, protecting the vulnerable people of Massachusetts, that's the highest calling of people in law enforcement. And this case represents those principles. And every day across Massachusetts, thousands of police officers, federal, state, local law enforcement, put their lives on the line to protect the people of Massachusetts. Mr. Farwell violated those principles, and now he faces very grave consequences. It is disheartening to have to charge law enforcement officers, especially with crimes this serious. But it's our job at the Department of Justice to investigate potential crimes without fear and without favor. We do in this office what we've been doing for decades with our federal partners like the FBI. We follow the facts, regardless of where they lead. We apply the law and the principles of federal prosecution, full stop. We are not influenced by social media chatter. We are not influenced by politics. We're influenced by the facts and the law. Our mission is to do our level best to do justice in every case. And our mission today is to do justice for Sandra Birchmore. Lastly, I want to note that we are sharing the information and the evidence that we developed in this case with the Norfolk County District Attorney's Office, with the Massachusetts State Police, and with the Massachusetts Attorney General's Office, so they can assess whether state charges may be warranted in this situation. And I want to thank those three agencies. I also want to thank the Stoughton Police Department for their assistance in our investigation. Lastly, I want to commend the women and the men of the FBI Boston and Lakeville for their incredible work on this case. This was a dogged investigation. And as you look at the court papers, you'll see exactly how much work has gone into this matter. A huge credit to them, and I particularly want to thank the members of my office, the office I'm proud to lead, the victim witness advocates, paralegals, the chief of our Human Trafficking and Civil Rights Unit, Liz Riley, Assistant United States Attorneys Tori Cummings and Brian Fogarty. This case doesn't happen without their passion for justice. They deserve the credit, not me. Now I want to turn it over to Steve Kelleher, the Assistant Special Agent in charge of FBI Boston.
Good afternoon. I'm Stephen Kelleher, Assistant Special Agent in charge of FBI Boston. At approximately 10:45 a.m. this morning, the FBI arrested former Stoughton police officer Mathew Farwell for allegedly taking the life of Sandra Birchmore in order to ensure her silence. The FBI SWAT team took him into custody at a shopping plaza.
There we go. Thank you. You guys don't even know. I've been dealing with this StreamYard all day. And it's just been a nightmare, and I'm so excited we're live. Thank God it's working. We it's like five last minute things I had to fix. We're up and running. StreamYard is a mess. I still can't get on the other main two browsers we use. We had to upload a third browser. I need to find a new place to stream. This is just ridiculous. Can you guys hear me now? Yes, you can. Okay, great. We have a guest waiting. I'm wicked excited. Whew, take a deep breath. This has been a big day. And I've been all day I've been dealing with this StreamYard shit. It was just unbelievable what we were trying to deal with on this. So let's bring up the guest. It's who you've been waiting for. Mazza Media is sick tonight. He can't be here. We're going to have some other special guests later at 7 p.m. from Canton. Big day, Sandra Birchmore, and who we've been waiting for is Attorney Mark Betterow right now. So let's bring him up. Attorney Betterow.
How are you?
Good.
Anything interesting been going on?
Oh, it's just technical issues over here. You know, with the street, you think it's easy to do these shows. It's just,
Mm.
yeah. And now I'm getting feedback. Do you hear that feedback?
There's noise behind where I am. I don't know if that's it,
Okay,
but I have
maybe it's
headphones.
you.
But I do have headphones in. So
Okay. So it's you. All
Is-
right, cool. It's on me.
there's piano behind me in the distance.
Okay.
I don't know if you can pick
That's
that up.
fine. I could deal with that.
It's very soothing.
I've been like deal with StreamYard and other streaming services trying to get the show up tonight, and it was just it's just you realize you can't rely on one company, especially when they've been bought out and now they've gone to shit.
Crazy.
Pretty much. So that today though, Sandra Birchmore, we have a lot of documents, some video that we were just playing. What do you think about this?
I learned more about the facts and allegations today than I had known in months. I'd only known a little bit about it. I had never read anything about the sordid history of it and the relationship with this Farwell. It was horrible to read some of those documents, which I did. I read some of the affidavits. I read a little bit of the indictment and a little bit of the detention memo. And it's quite disturbing on many levels. Just the crime itself, the allegation of a police officer essentially grooming a 12 or 13-year-old girl, manipulating, exploiting, abusing her for what appears to be 11 or 12 years, leading into physical violence, what appears to be sexual assault, all kinds of manipulation, and a very, at least allegedly, very chilling and calculated and well planned out murder staged as a suicide, followed by tampering with evidence, lying, and all sorts of things. So, this officer, who is entitled to due process and all of that, so it's still alleged, but the allegations appear quite damning, quite disturbing, and it's a death penalty eligible case. That's not going to happen, by the way. Even though these are horrible allegations. I mean, he murdered allegedly an innocent woman who wanted to have his child, misguided about the status of their relationship. I'm not being controversial here. I'm stating the fact. She was pregnant and there was a growing life inside of her, which obviously did not survive. That could lead to further charges. All of that's disturbing. The cover up is disturbing. The lying is disturbing. The fact that it involves a lot of the same cast of characters from another well-known case of a dead body in Canton is disturbing. The disappearance of numerous thousands, tens of thousands of text messages in a manner that sounds frighteningly similar to what happened in the other murder case from Canton, and perhaps other cases down the line that you'll learn about, is very disturbing, and it ought to send shockwaves to a lot of different people. Obviously, this police officer, he's facing the ultimate punishment, and nothing convinces people to cooperate and talk more than when faced with their own mortality through the courtesy of the state. Even if that's off the table at some point, which it's not, he's facing what is tantamount to a life sentence. Feds do it in months, but it would be a life sentence for him. Is he going to talk about other people? Perhaps, whatever he knows or doesn't know. So he certainly is feeling the heat. The family of poor Sandra Birchmore, who didn't deserve any of this. I mean, all she did was essentially get raped and abused by this man for a number of years, and emotionally attached to him, and was exploited even in adulthood. And reading the details, how excited she was to have a baby, preparing for a baby. And I got to tell you, in looking at all of the what appear to be obvious context clues about what was going on in her life, literally at the moment that she was found dead, I'm talking things like loads of laundry, okay? I'm talking about talking to friends about how happy you are about having a baby, or talking about things not messages of distress or anything like that, ordering DoorDash hours before, talking to him minutes before. How the hell any of this jumps out as suicide is remarkable. Now, you find a dead body with choked to death hanging on a doorknob sitting down. It's natural for anyone to immediately assume, without knowing more, that that's a suicide. But one would think that the ace investigators in the Norfolk DA's office, the state police, and Canton Police Department might have been a little more imaginative in their theories and investigation, and detect something. They didn't, and there are a lot of parallels to the Karen Reed case, notwithstanding what a lot of the trolls and haters and lunatics are now trying to separate between the two. I mean, how can you ignore the fact that the same so-called expert on forensic data found nothing when he found nothing with Jennifer McCabe? It's the same thing. That's troubling. Why is that? There's a million unanswered questions here. So I'm sure a lot of different people are feeling the heat. And despite what the trolls, haters, and loons and future defamation plaintiffs in their mind, whatever else they see happening here, they're not going to like what's going to be said next, which is, if they can't see the impact that this is going to have on the Karen Reed case, they need to wake the hell up. This is a huge blow to any future prospects of a retrial, which I told you I never thought was going to happen. Still don't, and I feel stronger in that opinion today than I did yesterday.
I'm starting to think you're right on that. Today was the day that I was like, I think federal might be onto something on this. I think we're more likely to see a federal trial, and it's what's going to be interesting. I started thinking about this today. There's going to be no cameras, so it's going to be reporters going in there on the federal trial,
right.
And probably won't have a state trial. Who knows? Will there be a Turtle Boy trial? Even we'll see. I know, today was a big day. That big of a day.
It was, and I'll pass on a Turtle Boy trial for obvious reasons for now. But the reality is, it's not that the Norfolk DA doesn't want to retry Karen Reed. The reason that I said that I don't think that they're going to retry her is because it's going to be logistically impossible or impractical and just not feasible. And again, you are now, the mistrial was in early July. So it's, not even 2 months since this happened. And in that 2-month period, recap what's going on. You have Michael Proctor is toast. He's, whether they call him or not, it's shuffling deck chairs on the Titanic. It doesn't matter. He's cooked. Tully and Buchanan have problems going on, obviously, as it relates to various things, and that's going to impact their credibility in the Karen Reed case. There are, other issues that you've seen since the trial. Everybody knows that she was essentially acquitted on 2 counts. All the jurors are going to know that. All the jurors are going. If you think the jurors in the first trial were unaware that the feds were looming over this, looking down, obviously the news reports are going to start linking this to Karen Reed. The names are going to sound familiar, and the odds of the defense has a strong application in a retrial to say, what's the point of even excluding a reference to a federal investigation, because it's out there. The lid has been blown off that. But primarily, the real problem today, the instant problem, is with Guarino, who, as it turns out, was probably a more important witness at Karen Reed's trial than anyone would have perceived, just based on the fact that 9 jurors were at least willing to accept some degree of a theory that she might have caused John O'Keefe's death by hitting him. And you'd have to think that of those 9, a lot of them credited his, to me, absurd testimony that the Apple data was moving up and down hills, He couldn't have been in the basement of 34 Fairview because of all this technical data. Everybody knows that he missed all the information that mattered on Jennifer McCabe's phone. The whole world knows that he missed. I mean, he went, well, put it this way, you don't have to bat 1,000 to be a major league hitter. You could even hit 300. He went 0 for 32,179. That's pretty bad.
That's bad. That's bad.
That's pretty bad.
Really
0 for
bad.
32,000 plus, and that's going to come out. And so the point is, he is quickly moving into Trooper Paul territory. I mean, think about it. You've heard reports that he's not going to come back as a witness, which makes perfect sense. We said that. There's no reason he's not a competent witness. But you would now have a pattern with Guarino where he seems to miss important phone evidence in cases that somehow inure to the benefit of law enforcement who may have committed a crime. That's problematic. And he comes from the same agency where three of them are under serious investigation right now, one of whom is almost certainly going to be terminated and is like, a front page laughingstock in the news on a semi-regular basis. So where do they go now? I mean, at a retrial, we have to replace one state trooper because he's not an expert, and the defense will bring that up and they'll pound. But staying on Paul for a second, they'll pound the DA over the head with that. Where is this guy? They're going to have to change their theory, if you will, about the mechanics of the accident. And you can be sure that the defense will make sure that's not what they said the first time, and And then the question becomes, is this going to be an issue with Guarino as well? I mean, I think at this point it's not yet determined, and I'm not suggesting he committed a crime or anything or did anything wrong, but you'd have to believe at a minimum, is there a pretty strong argument for, Alan Jackson and David Yannetti that he's, I don't know, incompetent because he just happened to miss this, he just happened to miss that. And, the feds didn't have a problem with that, right? They found the messages, which leads to the next point. Everyone was, all crazy at the Karen Reed trial about, it was Green the right witness, and did the DA witnesses about the Google search and the deletions, were they automatic or not? Wait for the guy from the feds who examined the phone. Okay, they find things. They have the best of the best, but they don't share sources and methods. And I don't know what's going to happen at a retrial, but they didn't use Richard Green. They certainly didn't use the people that the DA used, they shopped on the internet for their witnesses. Literally. I was there that day. I mean, they were sending contact us emails, looking, we'll send you $5,000 for an opinion. It's not something you usually see. So if Guarino is damaged and not credible, and they have to have somebody else come in, the real question is somebody else going to say that it's probably that John O'Keefe's iPhone was sitting in a car and he's holding it, and because they went up some minor inclines that he picked up some steps? I just don't think that's likely. I think that, but anything that Guarino says is going to be viewed through the lens of, dude, you couldn't even pick up any one of 32,000 messages. And that's in the best case scenario. The worst case scenario is you specifically chose not to. Now, I'm not suggesting that happened.
Let's talk about that, though. Let's pretend that there's some credence to all of that, like in terms of maybe it's Guarino, maybe it's some other people, but because you mentioned something earlier, and I want to get to that. Like, I think it's very important to kind of think about, like, so Mathew Farwell, what could he have to offer? Who do you think he might have? Like, what would it take for him to get years off with the feds? Like, what type of people involved in this do you think he would have to turn over to get any kind of help?
You have to also remember, usually the people who cooperate, you go up the ladder. You want to get bigger fish. I mean, usually you see this like in an organized crime situation. In this case, it's hard to fathom a bigger fish, in the sense, nothing I read today let's forget about the possible cover up. I'm talking about the horrible, horrible years long abuse of this poor girl and then eventually young woman when she died. He appears to have done this by himself. I mean, it sounds like a few people were aware of what was going on, but he appears to have, had sex with a 12-year-old, abused her for years, treat her like garbage, and then literally plan her death in a cold, calculated, sickening manner, and then sully her name and reputation even worse by, letting her family believe that this seemingly happy woman trying to misguidingly have a child with this monster, allegedly, in fact, might have killed herself. And that's a horrible thing to her family. Imagine the pain they must have felt when they thought, why would she do this to herself? This isn't the person we know. And that's a horrible thing to think that, your family member would just decide to sit down, with a duffel bag, I think, around her neck was what he used. And then he covered it up and he tried to make her look terrible. So who is he rolling up on? I don't know. But also bear in mind, if he has information about other things, such as whether it's the Canton police, the state police, all of that, which I have no idea. He's from a different age.
What if it was like Garino or the DA or, people covering up the Sandra Birchmore thing? What if there was some kind of game going on? We don't know that, but a lot of people suspect it. If that was the case, do you think the feds would be into that, like from him, or just they want him because he killed Sandra?
Well, look, they'll work with him if he has information that there is corruption in the Massachusetts State Police that involves protecting dirty police officers or people that they're sympathetic to by lying about their forensic evaluations of cell phones and data. I mean, that's very serious. But what Farwell has to understand that it only goes so far. I mean, there's nothing, he's not getting a Sammy the Bull deal, right? He's not killing 19 people for 5 years. The best he's going to do is take the death penalty off the table, which, although, again, I'm sure his lawyers are not overly thinking they're going to seek the death penalty, but, it is a pretty gruesome, hideous allegation, and she was pregnant with his kid. He knew that. And again, I'm not speaking politically, but you're talking about the man that would have been the father murdering, or whatever you want to call it, his own fetus, essentially, which is a separate crime. But he can be charged for that. And it's essentially would be another murder count. There is a federal law on that. They haven't done it yet. It's not death penalty eligible, by the way, when you kill a fetus under federal law, but that's neither here nor there. So he's got to realize that if he wants to admit what he did and make a deal, his life is over, in the sense that he's not getting out. This guy is, I mean, and maybe he'll do it for his family. I don't know, but it's not like you take a 10-year hiatus and then you'll come back and live the good life. If he essentially admits years of abuse, years of certainly statutory rape, whether she consented or not, legally she could not have consented for several years in the relationship, the physical violence, everything he did, the cover up. I mean, in the feds, they use federal sentencing guidelines, and there are aggravating and mitigating factors. And this guy box checks every single aggravating factor you could think of. So he's like off the charts, rotten hell, never to get out. So for him, maybe he avoids what they call an ad max prison, Florence in Colorado, Marion, Illinois, those kinds of places. But, there's a not so legal expression that lawyers use to describe allegations like this and the apparent evidence of this defendant. And you've probably heard it before, and he's fucked.
Yeah, throw the book at him.
So pardon my French, but so you'll have to wait and see what he does. But the question also is, what does he know? I mean, would he even be in a position to know? He deleted his messages. I don't think that's a secret. I think he said that. Now, did he say that there were 32,000? And does he know that the state police, were helping him out, if they even were? There is a possibility that Guarino is just incompetent, again, in like the Trooper Paul version of the state police, or it could be worse. And if he knows about whether it's Guarino, whether it's anyone else, whatever, yeah, they'll value that information, but it only goes so far for a guy like this. I mean, if he's convicted of these crimes, he's not going to see the light of day.
Definitely. He shouldn't. I mean, that's the
No,
bottom line.
no, it's
But I
horrible.
would
No,
love
look,
to see the whole nest, because I think there is a nest there.
uh,
And it could be
there,
unspoken too. Like you said, he might not know anything because it could just be like, we cover your back, you cover our back. We don't say
I
anything. There's
mean,
no talk about it.
he, the references to his rape fantasies and his penchant for choking and necrophilia.
Yeah.
Although I didn't see if the medical examiner alleged if there was any evidence of that. I only glanced over the documents, but I did see in one of the affidavits that he was apparently very much into looking into that. And, you get these horrible thoughts in your mind. And I wish I knew more about this case than I did until today. I mean, I just knew that she was an exploited young woman who was either a suicide or killed, murdered. And it, again, due process will play out. There are only allegations. There are no witnesses. It's not the strongest murder case in the world. It's a very strong circumstantial case, but it's not like it appears anyone's going to come in unless he made stupid admissions to anyone. But by no means is it a weak case. And one of the other big losers amongst many today is the Norfolk DA's office. Their credibility is just, I mean, again, the medical examiner looks terrible for apparently missing, the scientific ways of hanging and what happens to the hyoid bone and, your eyes that you saw. That's common in choking cases. The bone in your neck fractures, your eyes get all unfortunately messed up like they described. But I mean, politically, you have to start thinking this may be the beginning of the end of Morrissey, because the people who live there, I mean, they just swept this aside as a suicide. That, whatever, nothing to see here. It appears to be a cold, calculated murder, and you saw the feds lay it out. It's not just that she was positioned in a manner designed to make it look like a suicide and the medical examiner missed it. I mean, there's some really common sense clues that should have made any trained investigator say, this looks weird.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to make too big a deal out of it, but the wet laundry, that's not what people who are about to hang themselves do. They're not worried about what they're wearing the next day. They're not doing these things. And
Yeah,
you
she
just
went
start
out too to get something out of the car. She was telling her friend she was planning she was so excited. And the guy had a mask on. The guy wore a COVID-19 mask and was
which he never did.
anti-masker.
Right.
Yeah. And
He's
you could
got the
tell
hood
by the
up.
video he was trying to, exactly, cover up.
They knew he was in and out. They knew that he was out, shortly after her last text. Interestingly enough, you saw the feds very much crediting the Apple Health data, okay, which they somehow were able to decipher, right? So there's a lot of clues here that the state police, the Canton police, and ultimately the Norfolk DA, just apparently, much in the same way in the early investigation of Karen Reed, saw a conclusion and just kind of, whatever, what's for dinner in a blizzard again, right? Always a blizzard with these things. But so they look terrible. And people are going to get very cynical and say Morrissey's untouchable. This is bad. And you add this to the whole Karen Reed thing and the other stuff. And if the party bosses say that he's a liability, then it's over, because that's who runs these things. And if they cut off
I think it's more likely at this point that he resigns before his term is up, which is very unusual. It doesn't usually happen. But I think there's more of a chance of that than Karen Reed being convicted. Let me ask you this question, because it came up. Do you think Morrissey could be charged criminally over this case? You think that's even a possibility, Mark?
Over the Birchmore thing?
Yes.
I mean, look, DAs generally don't get charged because they're not good at their jobs or they're political hacks and things like that. In order to get charged with a crime, there would have to be satisfactory evidence that he was involved in some kind of corruption of the process, some kind of conspiracy, that he deliberately helped, suppress this, falsify that. That's a big stretch. I don't know that. I mean, I don't know why, and I'm being serious. I mean, people obviously don't like Morrissey. I don't know why the elected DA, even if he were corrupt, generally would want to protect a particular, Stoughton police officer who appears to be a scumbag at the highest level for just abusing, raping, torturing, exploiting, and ultimately murdering an innocent woman pregnant with his child. That's just hard for me to believe, even if you're that awful. And the only way that this would even be feasible for me to believe would be if somebody knows where the bodies are buried. I mean that proverbially, not literally. But there's no evidence that that's the case. I don't know, but I think politically, this is worse than anything that's happened in the Karen Reed case right now, and that's saying a lot, because politically, the Karen Reed case is awful for him as well. Now you put the two together, and my God, I mean, how does that office function? How does that division of the Norfolk State Police? How are they even in existence? Literally, I mean, they are. How many of these things can they just ignore and just get humiliated by the feds? And while we're talking about the feds, with the trolls again, who, with all due respect to them, most of them are not overly intelligent. I mean, they're just angry people. They're self-styled investigators and experts, and that's fine. Everyone does their own investigations and reaches their own conclusions. But most of them have no experience in how criminal practice works, how criminal investigations work, how trials are conducted, how DA's offices function, how the FBI functions, how the U.S. Attorney's Office functions. That's not a criticism. That's just a statement of fact. And for all these people, nothing's happening. And this is exactly how the feds work. This poor girl was murdered 3 years ago. Okay. And look at the amount of evidence. If you read the affidavits and stuff, they appear to have been aware of a lot of this evidence for some time, but they're methodical. They wait, they do it the right way. And when they're ready to go, in their mind, it's over. Like, we've got you. You don't bring a murder case against a guy like this, a police officer, expecting to just do it because, we feel sorry for this woman. They've had the medical data for some time. They've had the statements of her friends. They've had the people from her family. They've had the surveillance. They've had the phone evidence. And they still waited, and they waited and waited. And, people can be criticized. You can call them grifters. You can call them stupid. You can call them whatever. But for those of us who do this for a living and know how this works, this is how it works. And anyone who assumes that the same thing may not possibly happen in something related to the Karen Reed case is crazy. I mean, I don't know if it's going to happen, but just because there's been no charges or anything in that investigation doesn't mean that nothing is happening. And the reality is this: if they've known that they missed 32,000 text messages, which could have literally alerted them, the state authorities, to a lot more facts. I mean, you saw some of those text messages. They're terrible to read when you think about that. That's a police officer talking to a young, impressionable, exploitable.
I mean, the ones
kid.
that I'm reading when she was 15, and they're talking about having the sex that they had.
Yeah,
it was just,
and it's
that
horrible.
he took her virginity and how special it was.
Right, and then he bragged about how I'm gonna, I don't want to get graphic, but I'm gonna,
just disgusting.
I'm going to have sex in a way that's going to hurt you physically for a month and whatever. This guy is disgusting. But according to the state authorities investigating this case, that never happened because, we looked and we didn't find it. And if you don't think the feds are going to say that's the same guy who didn't find the Jennifer McCabe stuff, allegedly, including the Google search, whether you believe it was 227 or 630, whatever it is, and some of that other deleted materials, if you don't think they're going to say, what the hell is that?
Yeah. That's why I think there'll never be a Karen Reed trial now. Because, I mean, they can't bring up Paul. They can't bring up Guarino, most likely, after this, Birchmore stuff. I mean, we'll see on Guarino, because I mean,
Well, yeah, that's
Birchmore
right.
probably won't come to trial for a year, but still, I just think that they're so tainted. And then you look at, the other ones you talked about, Tully, Buchanan, and obviously Proctor. I mean, it just,
Well,
the whole thing's a mess.
we don't know again whether Guarino is incompetent, untrained, or worse. But I will tell you this: he's entering the area, the danger zone that Proctor was in several months ago, in which we talked about and said if Proctor was smart, he would shut his pie hole and just say, "I'm taking the fifth." Now, if Guarino is just simply incompetent and just made a mistake, and I mean, like, that's actually what happened, and he's comfortable saying that and just wants to get the Trooper Paul treatment, which I'm sure he would get, as it came out in court. But how could you miss all this? And his answer is, I don't know. And he's comfortable with that. Then I guess, onward and upward from the way they look at it. But if you think he's going to hold up to the cross-examination that would be coming, which will totally be admissible, by the way, they're not keeping out this is out there, and it goes directly to his credibility, because he's going to say, I found important things on John O'Keefe's phone, and the jury has an absolute right to know you're not good at this and you're not reliable. And that's a fair attack on his credibility. So assuming he's even willing to testify, they're going to eat him for lunch, and it's certainly going to corroborate the attack on his credibility, how he missed the Jennifer McCabe stuff. This isn't the only, you've been through this rodeo before, but you want us to believe you found all this credible stuff, which, because, it was on a hill, you drove and saw a hill. So this is what a disaster for the Norfolk DA, the state police, and frankly, the prosecution against Karen Reed. And what a good day, if there is such a thing, for the family of Sandra Birchmore, who has been, asking for a fair review for a long time. And you can't understate the amount of credibility hit that the Norfolk DA, because they supervised this and they're the ones who took a pass on this. I mean, they're already getting crushed on the Karen Reed thing and people talking about corruption and this and that. And then all of a sudden, it turns out, here come the feds to say, step aside, we'll take the wheel. Here's how you do it. Here's how you build a murder case and protect a real innocent victim and prosecute the offender, police officer or not. I mean, how does anyone in Norfolk County, Canton specifically, have any confidence that these are the right people for the job? I mean, it's
the town of Canton, the Canton police, the Mass State Police, the DA's office all have more egg on the face. I want to talk about Fanning in a second, but this question came up, this comment, and I think it's good to look at Kevin today too, because Kevin, someone just clipped a little clip, him basically going after and blaming Sandra Birchmore, a clip from the past. And of course, he's defending all the cops, and it just kind of disgusting. And this comment, Dreamer Thicker, says, what do we know? What we do know is that Josh Levy is genuine, direct, and honorable. Those drawing the opposite conclusion are not serious people. And I point to people like Kevin who have gone after Levy. I mean, today is just a big vindication of Levy, and it's a major downfall, I think, for the Mass State Police, the Canton Police, the Canton Select Board, and especially the DA Morrissey. I mean, do you think so? Agree? I mean, Attorney Bettero?
Well, in terms of how awful Morrissey looks in all this?
Yeah, and how kind of like the idiots, too, like the Kevins of the world who have been going after Josh Levy over and over, like Grant, and all these people, they've been attacking Levy over and over and over again on social media.
I fall back on what was said before. I mean, whatever his name is, Plevin, Yellow Cottage Idiot, whatever we're calling him
attic,
these days.
The kid
what is his real name? Kevin, right? That's
Kevin,
his real name.
Kevin.
I would just ignore him. He's not serious, okay? And again, this may be no fault of his own. The problem is that people like him, people like Wendy Murphy and some of the others, they project themselves as serious experts about things in which they know absolutely nothing. What does this guy know about how law enforcement works other than what somebody whispers in his ear and tells him to say? And I mean that sincerely. What are his bona fides in understanding criminal procedure and understanding how the FBI investigates crimes, or how the U.S. Attorney prosecutes federal crime, how the DA and the state police and whatever other agencies prosecute state offenses. Everything he says about how the feds work in this is because somebody's whispering in his ear and telling him. He has no experience or direct knowledge. The scary thing is that Wendy Murphy should, but clearly doesn't, because she took a left turn at Crazyland, a while back and is never corrected. But yeah, to me, honestly, these people at some point, they should just be ignored. And you should listen to people when it comes to these kinds of topics where it gets really dense on procedure, about people who actually understand how it works. It doesn't have to be me, but it's simple. Okay. The feds move slowly, methodically. They're not like the state where they just make street arrests generally. Okay. These are complicated charges. They're charging her or charging this police officer about, the murder of someone who could have had information in a federal investigation as a witness, which thereby leads to federal jurisdiction, that sort of thing. And they just do this in a slow, methodical way. And for them to claim victory that because a bunch of Alberts, McCabe's, and state police troopers testified in the federal grand jury a little more than a year ago, and that there wasn't an indictment the next day, that they're somehow clicking their heels and dancing around celebrating that nothing's happening, which nothing may happen, I don't know, but that's not how it works. They go on, and when the time is right, when they gather the evidence, and when they've essentially smothered you with no chance in their mind to have an escape hatch to defeating the charges, they bring them, and they do it when you don't expect it, and that's that. So for somebody like these types of people to say, oh, it doesn't mean anything, and the federal prosecutor is corrupt. What because Grant is talking about Rachel Rollins knowing someone who knows a guy who knows a guy who knows someone else, and therefore Karen Reed must be working with the feds, and this is all nonsense. This is just, these people should be just ignored, and if nothing else, find a lawyer who, if you really want to, who thinks Karen Reed is guilty. At least find a lawyer, find an intelligent person who's willing to be honest to the evidence in the process. And if they want to argue why they think no federal investigation is coming, or why she's going to get convicted, okay. But listening to a guy, up in his mother's attic talking to 17 people when he was whispered something by, a
Chrissy
friendly,
Albert.
whoever, a friendly to, the DA's case, consider the source. It is what it is, and consider their experience and basis of knowledge. And if it's none of the above, then I don't know why anyone would credit what they say, unless you just want to hear an echo chamber. People want to hear what they want to hear. So this guy has a microphone and puts on a collared shirt and says, trust me, then okay, that's one way to do it, but I wouldn't.
Now, Dag Nabbit has a comment about how a lot of people said the feds don't charge murder, but here they are charging murder for Farwell. I noticed that too, because like Whitey Bulger, he got charged for murder. I know the feds don't do a lot of murder charges, but sometimes they do, right?
Well, you have to have jurisdiction. So it has to be in furtherance of some other federal crime or a witness. The feds are not the state. Murder is traditionally, classic murder is traditionally a state crime. And even if the feds, one of the running jokes about, law enforcement or criminal people involved in this world, criminal practitioners, is, if the feds want to make jurisdiction on anything, they sometimes can. You just, use the commerce clause and say it affects interstate commerce, or, wire fraud is a fancy word for somebody sent a freaking email and then a murder occurred, charge, now we have federal jurisdiction, or anything like that. Mail fraud, right? Somebody sent an email, it's now mail fraud and wire fraud. But generally the feds will stay away. But this is a unique situation. So she apparently was a witness with information who could have been a witness in the federal proceeding, but also understand the circumstances. The state passed, okay? The feds didn't have the first crack. Does anybody seriously think the federal government would be involved in the Birchmore case if Morrissey and his people put in a real investigation and had a real analysis and said, you know what, this appears to be a homicide? The feds wouldn't be involved. Why would they? There's no reason to. They're only here because it was brought to their attention. They did a review. Apparently, at the same time, they did the same thing and are doing on the Karen Reed case, right? That's a case that they would never look at, Karen Reed. That's a classic state crime kind of case, but there's allegations of police misconduct and all of that. And that, to me, would freak me out if I'm in the DA's office of the state police or some of these police departments. They're now, if it happens once, you say that's a one-off. It's now happened on 2 big cases. And by the way, it's not like there were that many big cases where dead bodies end up in Canton, right? These are kind of, in the last couple of years, the only 2. And both of them are at the U.S. Attorney's Office in some capacity. What does that tell you?
Something going on there.
It doesn't sound good for the state people. But again, what does it mean? Ultimately, in the Birchmore case, it meant so far 1 indictment. Will there be more? Don't know.
Exactly.
But
it's like, with all this stuff, it's like there's smoke, but there's not fire yet. But there's, definitely the Birchmore arrest is huge to see. Just to see this guy that everyone knew.
Right. And
what
that
he
does
did.
not mean that there's only going to be 1 indictment. There can be a superseding indictment. They can join defendants. I don't know.
Yeah, we don't know. None of us know.
I mean, the concern would be, at this point, not the homicide. I don't think anyone is suggesting that anyone else was involved in that.
No.
But, you've heard the old adage, the cover-up is worse than the crime.
That's it.
Now, that's where people generally make mistakes. And if there was help or assistance or malfeasance related to the electronic data that mysteriously wasn't detected, you can be damn sure they're going to get charged. Because that also, if you don't charge them, I mean, look what's going on. How many cases are they missing cell phone records? And is it on purpose? Does it relate only to the benefit of law enforcement or people that are, friends of the family, so to speak?
Yeah, or know where the bodies are buried. Like, that's the other one you said? Maybe we're gonna find out about some bodies that are buried. That would be amazing to find out.
I don't know, but look, this is the kind of stuff the feds look into. Corruption. They don't look into classic murder. They look into corruption. They're looking into a case like this because they knew the state passed on it. It was presented to them. They gave it a look over. It was clearly disturbing to them, and not only did they pass over it, the defendant, or the who should have been a defendant, was a police officer. Okay. And the local people didn't do it. They apparently didn't do much. So it goes to the feds, and the feds do something. That is, in simple terms, this is a corruption case. Okay. It's a murder case, but not that anyone necessarily may be charged with corruption, but it is a corruption case. A police officer violated this woman's civil rights, killed her, tortured her, not literally tortured, proverbially tortured her, ended her life, covered it up, lied to the authorities, which is also a federal crime, 18 U.S.C. 1001. I don't even know if he's charged with that. I imagine he must be, unless he just lied to the state police. I don't even know. But I didn't see it in the indictment. I didn't look. Someone will tell me. I'll read it later. But they investigate official corruption and crimes related to that. Now, the Karen Reed case that they're looking at, or did look at, they're looking at it because it reeks of official corruption. I mean, there's evidence of planting evidence, deleting evidence, all kinds of things involving helping a police officer. The state police are in the crosshairs and whatnot. So they're looking at these cases because it involves what they believe are potential malfeasance or corruption of local authorities. And however many people thought that was the case yesterday around that area, which was probably like 90% yesterday, it's probably about 97% today.
There you go. Yeah, I got the it up It's does include coercion and enticement in violation 18 USC
Mhm.
and wire fraud. So that's part of it too.
Yeah, 18 USC 1343 is a classic. Almost every federal indictment is going to include either wire fraud or mail fraud. It's just, it's one of those things. And there you see 18 USC 242, which you've probably heard me repeatedly talk about as it relates to Proctor and others in the Karen Reed case. That would be part of the federal crimes being investigated. If you, under color of law, which is just a fancy way of saying you have state authority, police officer acting presumably in the course of his duties, intentionally violates someone's civil rights, then guess what? You commit a federal crime. This is, this was the famous crime they used in the Rodney King case when the cops in LA kicked the crap out of him. I mean, that was 18 USC 242. If the feds believe that Proctor or someone else was dealing cards, except instead of cards, he was dealing taillight pieces on Brian Albert's lawn to plant evidence against her, you're going to get charged with 18 USC 242. That would be a deliberate violation of her civil rights. To be, you can go on and on with the crimes. So you have to wait and see what's going to happen. But there's no question that the DA's case against Karen Reed took a public hit today, but also a practical hit, just in terms of how do we, they're running out of witnesses who are not damaged, and virtually every critical witness that they have is in some way damaged. You've got 3 troopers under active internal affairs investigation, and you have a 4th who was an incompetent accident reconstruction witness that they literally can't even use them, as has been reported. And you have a 5th who apparently is going down that path because in the best case scenario, the non-nefarious scenario, he just somehow could not recover deleted messages despite being trained and using all the software and the Celebrite type stuff. And, and I don't think anyone's going to think that this has only happened in these 2 cases. And, I'll leave that for there right now, but this is concerning.
Definitely is. It's going to be interesting to see how it all turns out. With the Karen Reed stuff, there's definitely going to be an appeal on what Bev just did. What do you think? Do you think there's any chance that will...
I don't know. I read a tweet last night from Wendy Murphy who said she dared Karen Reed to appeal. And I don't know about you, but I take that very seriously, coming from a very distinguished lawyer. And if she follows that profound advice, maybe she'll just pack it in and not appeal. I'm kidding, of course. That was stupid beyond belief. Of course she's going to appeal. And, will it be successful? I don't know. We've always been very skeptical that it will work. I'm not sure why the trolls think that we all said it was going to work. What I said, by the way, was that the judge ought to order a hearing, not grant the motion. All I said was take evidence. Let's learn, did they issue a verdict or not? And if they're telling you emphatically they did, then that leads to a very fair question that the DA could ask, which is, why the hell didn't it get published? And I don't know the answer. And I think people should know. But, the judge decided that to go the way of, this is how things have always been done. There's no precedent for this. She's not going to be on the edge of making precedent. And I think, in all fairness, whatever your view of the case is, she blamed Jackson and Yannetti. At one point, she blamed both by name. She blamed, David for not asking, to prevent a mistrial. And she blamed Alan for, making comments on the steps and said neither one of these guys are shrinking violets. So one has to assume that they would have objected. And look, I don't think it was a very compelling opinion. I think, obviously the law doesn't allow for what the defense is seeking right now, but laws change over the course of time. And we live in a common law society, except for Louisiana, I think, at one time. The point being, case law and interpretation of statutes and constitutional rights by courts dictates where we go, and precedent usually controls. But there are times where precedent needs to either change or it doesn't cover the situation that we're dealing with. And the precedent that was cited by the court, relying on what the DA mentioned in their argument, does not cover a situation where the jurors are adamant almost immediately, we acquitted, we were confused, we didn't, or the implication that they were confused. Nobody wants to know about their deliberations. And I don't know why this turned into a discussion about, well, you can't ask them about their deliberations. It's very simple. When you came out at the very end, right before I declared a mistrial, had you reached a verdict on count 1 of murder? It's very simple. You either reached a unanimous verdict or you didn't. Now, if any of the jurors were to start saying, well, no, we were doing this, then you have a problem, because that's getting into the area of deliberations and you don't want to do that. But if 12 out of 12 are like, yes, absolutely. I don't know why, when you're talking about a fundamental constitutional right, you would choose form over substance and then, blame the lawyers because they should have been prescient and known what it is. And I got to tell you, I don't care that they didn't ask for the mistrial. I don't care what was said on the courthouse steps. You can be critical and this and that, but at the end of the day, the defendant's constitutional right has to come first. And you can't ignore the pink elephant. I mean, if the jurors are screaming up and down saying we acquitted, then I don't know why a judge would not say, let's just take evidence at a hearing. Let's find out if that's true. Let's find out why they didn't publish the verdict. And then after that, let the DA make all the same arguments. They're entitled to make them, that they waived, they did whatever, but let's get the evidence before doing that. And I think that's a shame. And I think, it'll be interesting to see if a higher court in Massachusetts takes a position that this is such a unique situation that we can't rely on juror contact law that talks about different types of alleged problems with the jury, as opposed to, my God, we acquitted.
Now, on the retrial, this thing came up with Aiden. He did some reporting with the interview with the juror. The juror said specifically that the ARCA experts, they didn't realize that they were feds, that they were hired by the feds, that they they thought they were insurance people, like that insurance company might have hired them, and that they might have had a bias for Karen Reed. So it kind of blew up. Bev was trying to not have any bias shown, and it created more bias by doing it the way that she did it. Is there any way the defense is going to be able to push back and say, you know what, Bev, you got to say that the Fed brought these in, because this is not acceptable, what happened last time?
Well, what you just said is going to be part of the defense argument, which is, my God, these people are going to infer that there is an insurance company and that these are hired guns by somebody sensitive or sympathetic to the defense. And I will say this, in defense of the judge, call it like I see it, I think she made the right ruling as part of what a fair trial is, by not allowing generally the jury to learn that the case that's being tried in my courtroom is in essence under a federal investigation for malfeasance. Because if the jury knew that, I think the likelihood that they would be influenced by that would be high. But there has to be some better middle ground. Maybe they have to find language, a stipulation. I mean, I don't know why. See, this is, I don't understand. What they should have done is found a way to enter a stipulation, which is something that both sides agree. This is the evidence. The judge reads it to the jury and it's left alone, that they were hired by an independent government agency that had nothing to do with the Norfolk DA's office and nothing to do with Karen Reed's defense, nothing to do with insurance companies. There has to be a better way, and you can be sure the defense will try to do that. Now they'll start at saying, if I'm the defense attorney, my first argument is cat's out of the bag. The whole world knows. I mean, look at Birchmore, and God knows what's going to come out before a retrial, which to me, this exercise is in the hypothetical and is never going to come to fruition. But I think But I'm arguing, if I'm the defense attorney, everybody knows. So let's just, cut the crap and get to it. And this is the DA's problem. Now, jump ahead to the Karen Reed civil case for a minute. It's coming out, okay? Everyone's going to know those were hired by the feds. The feds were investigating this case, and good luck. The civil case, although the plaintiff has a much lower burden of proof, much more stuff that the plaintiffs would not want to come out is going to come out. That may, I think, help Karen Reed's people. But the civil case to me is it's small potatoes for a lot of reasons, and I don't think it can do anything other than, frankly, help the defense. Not that you want to be sued. Nobody wants to be sued. Nobody wants to be dragged into this. But she takes the fifth, right? She's not giving a deposition. She takes the fifth, and in the meantime has the opportunity to learn, perhaps, about a lot of things coming from the other side. That's an advantage. I know they had statute of limitations issue. I'm not an expert on Massachusetts civil procedure. In New York, litigation can get stayed automatically till the criminal case is disposed of. If you can demonstrate that it constitutes an act that is, subject to a criminal case. I'm assuming that's not the case in Massachusetts. If it is the case, I have no idea why they filed this lawsuit now. That to me is crazy. If they had no choice, I get it. I mean, what are you going to do if you're going to preserve their rights? But, they filed a complaint that essentially looks like it could have been drafted by the DA, before the trial started. And that's yikes. But going back to the ARCA thing in the criminal case, there has to be a better way to make sure the jury, if they're not going to be allowed to know that there was a federal investigation into this, they have to know that the defense, nobody associated with the defense, and no insurance company on behalf of the defense had anything to do with this. They've got to know that this was truly an independent evaluation. And I'm a little surprised that the jury didn't pick this up, because I thought the defense I thought they got it out there that we had nothing to do with this. We've never met you. And if it was hired by insurance people, that doesn't strike me as that's the way it would be. But listen, you get an interview with the juror, they have things to offer, you learn and adjust. And that's, that's a great get. I understand a lot of the deniers and whatnot are questioning whether this is real, whether a juror was act.
Yeah. Even Kevin, though, didn't buy that one. Even Kevin thought it was a real interview. So at least Kevin has a little bit of a brain. Like the rest of them are just insane.
Let me give him a little bit of a pat on the head about this. As awful as he is about a lot of things, and he's pretty awful. He clearly has no clue who the hell I am and what I do. And for somebody who likes to be so smart, you need to get a lot smarter, buddy. But putting all that aside, he's not as unhinged emotionally as some of these other ones are, who start talking about, you're going to get a lawsuit and you're going to do this. And, oh my God, there are different levels of wackiness.
Crazy, yeah.
On some of these people. And I don't agree with his analysis. And I think he, again, projects himself to be a lot more keyed in and experienced than he is. But I don't think he's anywhere near the level of some of these other people who are entirely unhinged about this. You saw today, you see all kinds of reports just about from some of the usual suspects and get so angry about a lot of this. And the reality is, this doesn't happen in criminal cases. The evidence goes where it goes. This is an emotional case. We all understand that. Some people think she's guilty. I'm not sure why, but it's a free country. You're allowed to have free thoughts. I'm not sure how that turns into such uncontrollable rage and hatred. But they're not gonna like what the Birchmore news does to the viability of the Karen Reed case. And it's not just that the DA looks terrible. It's not just because it increases the lack of confidence in the state people there. It's the facts. And you have the state police tech guy who is essential to the Karen Reed trial could not find any one of 32,179 messages when the FBI found 32,179. He could not find key deletions on Jennifer McCabe's phone that if the defense did not fight like hell to get access to that phone, there'd be none of that evidence ever comes in at the Karen Reed trial. How much more credible would Jennifer McCabe have appeared if she didn't have that evidence on her phone and didn't have to argue about who made the search and deletions when, right? So that's really disturbing, and it's a problem for them going forward because he's the guy, like Trooper Paul, who is telling the jury, we have critical evidence which shows that he couldn't have been in the basement. He couldn't have been this. He couldn't have been going up and down the stairs. This is bad.
Yeah.
There's no, and you can't spin that. I mean, they can try, you know, I know one of them was saying today, oh, how long before all the, you know, Karen Reed pink lunatics, you know, conflate the two cases.
I mean, how can you not conflate them? Same DA, same Canton police, like Lank and Albert, an officer Albert involved in the. I mean, it's just, you know, and the same state police, like you say, Guarino, and it just there's a lot of overlap. I don't know how they get around that.
I think the big one is Guarino, and again, to be clear, I have no idea that he did anything improper as opposed to incompetent, which is, you know, that's a small victory if you can call that a victory. But the point is, even if he just didn't know what he was doing, and that's what a future jury in Karen Reed's case believes, then how, and they know that he screwed up the McCabe stuff too, then how are you having any confidence in what he claims he did do properly as it relates to cell phone data and extraction materials? He's damaged. It's just, it is what it is, okay? But it also tells you the more this case collapses, it's only been less than 2 months. And the DA is in a remarkably worse position than they were before the trial started, which was already a terrible position.
Not good. So I know you got family. I really appreciate you calling in today because I know you're still on vacation and people have been crying on social media about you not being around. But you have been posting, which is good. But you haven't done the shows. I mean, you have any final thoughts before you go back to the family life?
I mean, look, what happened today is, as I said earlier, that's an earthquake. I mean, the idea that a police officer gets indicted for murdering an innocent young woman in a same small town where the Karen Reed case is going, and it involves the same DA's office investigating, the same local police department who made a mockery out of policing in the Karen Reed case, the same state police trooper who's supposed to be a cell phone extraction expert who screwed up the McCabe stuff, and now in this case, screwed up isn't, I mean, strong enough. Again, 32,000 missed messages. To try to separate that as having no impact on a second Karen Reed trial is just so myopic and short-sighted, because the credibility alone, I mean, you get called for jury duty for a Karen Reed retrial. You've heard all the stuff about the Karen Reed corruption and frame job. You've heard that she was acquitted on two of 3 counts. They all know that. And, oh, by the way, this is the same DA and state police office, including at least one of the same witnesses who basically said that poor girl, you know, committed suicide after, you know, putting in a load of laundry. It's so they go into the trial just at such a disadvantage. You've already had Proctor damage, you've had Buchanan damage, you've had Tully damage. You still have all the butt dials that you're going to hear about again. You still have all the ARCA that you're going to hear about again. And this time it's going to be more prepped. You're probably going to hear the defense do a few other things different. I think the Dighton police officer is an obvious example. I don't know why, frankly, he wasn't cross-examined, but that's a choice they made, and they know what they're doing. They must have had their reasons, but I think tactically there will be a few differences, and you put this all together, and if you're the Morrissey people, how do you look at yourself in the war room they have and say, let's do this again? This is a good idea. I just don't think it's going to happen. Not because they're good people who don't want it to happen. I just don't think it's going to be feasible.
We shall see what happens. It's I'm feeling more and more after today. I think you're onto something. I think just every day it gets like, ever since that trial ended, every day it gets worse for them in terms of retrying.
The only thing that I thought, and I think I said this to you a few weeks ago, that would even make a retrial even remotely feasible is if they get rid of Paul, and this is before the whole Birchmore thing. I mean, to me, that's a bigger, well, separate but very important problem. If they were to get rid of Paul, the only feasible path to even passing the laugh test of having a retrial would be to find somebody on the level of ARCA, which is going to be tough, and who gives you an opinion that is critical of theirs, that says they don't know what they're talking about. Because remember, it's not just enough on a reasonable doubt standard to say, well, maybe ARC is right, maybe these guys are right. We don't know. They need to get an opinion that discredits the ARCA one. And I don't think that's ever going to happen. And if you can't do that, and you have these two guys looking at you with a straight face with all the degrees saying there's no car accident, and it's the science telling us that, it's not a personal thing, then adding everything else into it, how do you even go forward? And I think even in that office, ultimately, that conclusion becomes obvious. They're not there yet. They're nowhere near that. On top of the fact that, guys, they did acquit her on 2 counts. Do you think they don't think in the DA's office that the jurors are telling the truth? They know the jury's telling the truth. Now, they don't care legally. They say they have the right to retry her for murder. They're not going to retry her for murder. There's no way. There's no way they're going to do that. But moreover, they know practically, literally, when they talk privately amongst themselves, jury's not buying this. It's certainly not buying murder. They're not buying the other charge. Maybe we have a shot because we got 9. But again, the circumstances are different. As you noted earlier, the jury was confused about where ARCA came from. And if they thought that was a hired gun for somebody sympathetic to Karen Reed, that's a big deal. I mean, it turns out they know nothing about her prior to this. So we'll see.
We shall see. Absolutely. Thank you so much for coming on tonight,
All right.
Mark.
We'll talk
Attorney
soon.
Federal. Have a great rest of your vacation. We'll see
Thanks.
you when you get back.
Yeah, I'll be back soon.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you so much. Have a great week.
Yep. Thanks, you too. Bye.
And we're the Young Jerks. We're going to keep it going. We got a lot more tonight. Please don't go away. We have some more guests coming up. Believe me, we're going to stick on this Sandra Birchmore. There's a lot more. I would keep Mark extra, but he's got his family. We're very lucky to get him tonight. I want to thank Lynn, who sent some money on Venmo. She said $10. She said, thanks for the great commentary. Thank you so much, Lynn. Also, Molly Plaster sent a great donation. Molly, the other night, 25. She said, love your shows. Thank you so much, Molly. And Melanie also sent $20. I didn't get to thank her. She said, thank you. Peace, love. Thank you so much. And I think I did get that one. Okay, excellent. I think we're all good. Go check the Cash App real quick. Caroline 4th sent $10 on Friday night. We didn't get to thank her. Thank you so much for that, Caroline. And I think Ryan, August 12th, I hope he thanked him for that because he sent 50. Thank you so much. I want to thank everyone on the Cash App, Venmo, on the Super Chats, all the comments, the viewers, the listeners. Very overwhelming. Thank you so much for supporting us. And I do have some documents tonight. I got the, basically the indictment here. And I also have the affidavit of a special agent, Chenny Castrutia, in support of the government's motion for detention from today. We're going to have a couple guests, I think, calling in at 7 p.m. I'm going to take a quick break. I got a couple things I got to do, quick little things around the house here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to play this video again of Levy today. And then we're going to come back at 7. We'll be back at 7 with guests, hopefully. And if not, we're going to go over the paperwork. So we got a lot to do tonight. We got time. Tomorrow night, too, there's going to be a show at 7 p.m. with retired FBI agent Rob D'Amico. We're going to be talking about the Sandra Birchmore, about the indictments, about the affidavits, about what this investigation is all about with a retired FBI agent. This is going to be exciting tomorrow night. Looking forward to that. I think, hopefully, Mizzy might be with us tomorrow night as well. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a quick break. Going to play some more video. Please don't leave. Let me just check and see if people have been leaving or are they sticking around. You're sticking around. I love you guys. Awesome. So stick around. Most of you have. There's a few of you left, but most of you are still here. Going to play some more video. And then we're going to come back with some great guests from Canton.
Without incident. Immediately following his arrest, we shared.
Let's go back to this. Hold on 1 second.
Information murdered by Mathew Farwell 3 days earlier. At the time of her death, Sandra Birchmore was a 23-year-old woman with her entire life ahead of her, and she was pregnant with her first child. We allege that Sandra Birchmore survived years of grooming, statutory rape, and then sexual violence, all at the hands of Mathew Farwell, who was employed throughout their relationship as an officer and then detective for the Stoughton Police Department. And when it became clear to Mr. Farwell that he could no longer control Sandra Birchmore, he allegedly silenced her permanently. This morning, Mathew Farwell was arrested on a federal grand jury indictment, charging him with 1 count of killing a witness or victim. Specifically, Mr. Farwell is charged with violating Title 18 United States Code 1512 for killing Sandra Birchmore with the intent of preventing her from communicating information about his possible commission of federal crimes. How did this all unfold? What happened here? Well, back in 2010, a 12-year-old Sandra Birchmore applied to join the Stoughton Police Department's Explorers program, which introduces teens to policing. Officer Mathew Farwell was an instructor in that program. And as alleged in court documents, he befriended Sandra Birchmore, contacted her online, went to the library with her, became friends on Facebook, essentially groomed her. And then he committed statutory rape by having sex with her when he was a 27-year-old police officer and she was just 15 years old. Mr. Farwell continued to have a sexual relationship with Sandra Birchmore until her death 8 years later, allegedly meeting her for sex regularly when he was on duty and being paid by the Stoughton Police Department. Now, in the weeks leading up to Sandra Birchmore's death in February 2021, she found out that she was expecting a baby. And she told Mr. Farwell that he was the father. According to court documents, Ms. Birchmore was very excited about becoming a mother, buying baby clothes and other items, taking precautions to ensure the health of her new child. Sandra Birchmore had good friends, she had a good job, she had dreams of becoming a nurse, and she had a child on the way. But Mr. Farwell did not share in that excitement. It's alleged that Mr. Farwell reacted quite negatively to the news that Sandra Birchmore was pregnant with his child. And he acted angrily, it is alleged, when Sandra Birchmore started making requests of Mr. Farwell around doctor's appointments and ultrasounds and what information would be on the birth certificate. Mr. Farwell was losing control in late 2020, early 2021, and the information that Sandra Birchmore possessed about his illegal conduct was in danger of slipping out. In fact, word started to get out about their relationship. Less than 2 weeks before she was found dead, someone called the Stoughton Police Department and disclosed that Mathew Farwell had had a relationship with Sandra Birchmore. And when Mr. Farwell learned about that call, he became visibly angry. Mr. Farwell, it is alleged in these court papers, started to lose his patience, lose his temper, and the 6'4" Mr. Farwell started to be physically violent with 4'10" Sandra Birchmore. And Sandra Birchmore told her friends that Mr. Farwell had pushed her and shoved her and put her in a chokehold. She was scared. And during that same time, Mr. Farwell was allegedly planning Sandra Birchmore's murder. For the first time, he requested a key to her apartment. And she told friends that he was oddly inspecting the apartment and looking at the closet, including the closet that she was found dead in front of. And then it all came to a head on February 1st, 2021. Mr. Farwell went over to her apartment that evening, and he strangled Sandra Birchmore to death. That's the allegation in this case. And he used his knowledge and experience as a law enforcement officer to stage her death to look like a suicide. He allegedly attempted to cover his tracks to literally try and get away with murder. And he almost did, until today. Back in 2021, with the information that was available, Sandra Birchmore's death was ruled a suicide, or deemed a suicide. But over the last year or so, the FBI and our office have been working exhaustively with our state partners. We've uncovered critical new information, examined the existing information, all of which led to this federal grand jury indictment. If convicted on this charge, Mr. Farwell faces a minimum of life imprisonment. Giving voice to the voiceless, ensuring that no one is above the law, protecting the vulnerable people of Massachusetts, that's the highest calling of people in law enforcement. And this case represents those principles. And every day across Massachusetts, thousands of police officers, federal, state, local law enforcement, put their lives on the line to protect the people of Massachusetts. Mr. Farwell violated those principles, and now he faces very grave consequences. It is disheartening to have to charge law enforcement officers, especially with crimes this serious. But it's our job at the Department of Justice to investigate potential crimes without fear and without favor. We do in this office what we've been doing for decades with our federal partners like the FBI. We follow the facts, regardless of where they lead. We apply the law and the principles of federal prosecution, full stop. We are not influenced by social media chatter. We are not influenced by politics. We're influenced by the facts and the law. Our mission is to do our level best to do justice in every case. And our mission today is to do justice for Sandra Birchmore. Lastly, I want to note that we are sharing the information and the evidence that we developed in this case with the Norfolk County District Attorney's Office, with the Massachusetts State Police, and with the Massachusetts Attorney General's Office, so they can assess whether state charges may be warranted in this situation. And I want to thank those three agencies. I also want to thank the Stoughton Police Department for their assistance in our investigation. Lastly, I want to commend the women and the men of the FBI Boston and Lakeville for their incredible work on this case. This was a dogged investigation. And as you look at the court papers, you'll see exactly how much work has gone into this matter. A huge credit to them, and I particularly want to thank the members of my office, the office I'm proud to lead, the victim witness advocates, paralegals, the chief of our Human Trafficking and Civil Rights Unit, Liz Riley, Assistant United States Attorneys Tori Cummings and Brian Fogarty. This case doesn't happen without their passion for justice. They deserve the credit, not me. Now I want to turn it over to Steve Kelleher, the Assistant Special Agent in charge of FBI Boston.
Good afternoon. I'm Stephen Kelleher, Assistant Special Agent in charge of FBI Boston. At approximately 10:45 a.m. this morning, the FBI arrested former Stoughton police officer Mathew Farwell for allegedly taking the life of Sandra Birchmore in order to ensure her silence. The FBI SWAT team took him into custody at a shopping plaza in Revere without incident. Immediately following his arrest, we shared this significant development with Sandra's family. We know it does not ease their pain, but hopefully it answers some of their questions. Simply put, this case is about seeking justice for Sandra, who we believe was killed by Mathew Farwell after he allegedly groomed and sexually abused her when she was just 15 years old, violating her body and her civil rights. It's also about keeping Mr. Farwell from getting away with murder and from harming anyone else. We in law enforcement are entrusted with immense authority because our decisions can have life-changing consequences, both good and bad. To temper that power, we must adhere to the highest of ethical standards. What we believe Officer Mathew Farwell did, as outlined in today's indictment, is depraved and a gross betrayal of his sworn oath and the public's trust. Let me be clear. Mathew Farwell's gun and badge did not grant him authority to violate the Constitution, and it certainly didn't entitle him to sexually exploit, abuse, and rape a child before killing her and her unborn baby in an attempt to cover up his alleged crimes. What's also troubling is we believe Mathew Farwell staged Sandra's body and her apartment to make it look like she had died by suicide. In the days that followed, this sworn police officer repeatedly lied to Massachusetts State Police investigators about the nature of their relationship. It's a stark contrast to the sheer excitement and pure joy that Sandra felt when she told Farwell that she was expecting his child, texting him a photo of a poster she had made celebrating the pregnancy. Our investigation also uncovered additional evidence that is inconsistent with someone choosing to die by suicide. In the hours leading up to Sandra's death, she reached out to a photographer to inquire about booking a newborn photo shoot. She also reached out to a friend about obtaining baby clothes. And at the time that she was in the middle of doing laundry when she died, with a load in the washing machine and another one in the dryer. There's no question this was a complex investigation, and our work is not done. Our agents, analysts, and financial investigators reviewed tens of thousands of text messages, emails, and financial records, conducted dozens of interviews with family, friends, and experts, and analyzed the crime scene. We urge anyone with information about the circumstances surrounding Sandra's death to contact the FBI. Committing murder to eliminate victims and witnesses is heinous, and it shakes the very core of our justice system, which depends on people truthfully testifying to what they know. Today's arrest shows that anyone who tries to interfere and retaliate against victims and witnesses in an attempt to subvert the rule of law will have to answer for it. After all, the public's trust is critical for our justice system to function properly. That's why the FBI will do everything in its power to bring to justice anyone who tries to undermine that trust. Our hearts go out to Sandra, to the Birchmore family, and all who knew and loved Sandra. On behalf of the FBI, I want to thank them for their cooperation, patience, perseverance, and fortitude. I also want to thank our agents and analysts for their hard work and dedication, Acting U.S. Attorney Josh Levy and his team for their partnership, and both Chief McNamara of the Stoughton Police Department and Colonel Mon with the Massachusetts State Police for their assistance in helping us move this investigation forward. Thank you.
Next, Steve.
Take some questions.
John, why did it take so long to go from suicide, the finding of suicide, to now murder?
Well, I think if you when you have a chance to look through the court papers, you'll see how exhaustive this investigation is. Obviously, this is an incredibly serious charge. There was a lot of forensics and other evidence that had to be marshaled, expert witnesses, et cetera. So we move as fast as we can, and we also have a duty to get it right.
Was there a rush to find a suicide because this involved a police officer?
Yeah, our office wasn't involved in the initial determination of a suicide, so I can't speak to that.
You mentioned your office got involved about a year ago. What prompted that?
Yeah, we get leads on cases all the time from all different sources. I'm not going to comment on how we get information on how we got into this one.
As you said initially, this was considered a suicide, but it seems like there's a plethora of evidence to suggest otherwise. Surveillance, text messages. How was that all missed for the first 2 years?
Yeah, I'm only in a position to comment on what we've done on this investigation. Those questions are not something I'm able to answer to. We like I said in my comments, we started pulling this string and followed the evidence and got new evidence to put together the case we put together today.
So what evidence tipped you off?
I'm sorry, sir?
What evidence led you to
It's you're never able to pick one piece of evidence that is the straw that breaks the camel's back. It's really an accumulation. We have to go in front of a jury, 12 citizens, and convince them beyond a reasonable doubt that Mr. Farwell is guilty. That's on us. He's presumed innocent today, and he will remain innocent until we meet that burden. But it's all the evidence in combination makes that case.
Did the state medical examiner's office plan to change the cause of death on her death certificate, and did you determine who the father of her unborn baby was?
Well, I'll take those in reverse order. I'm not going to comment on the second piece. What we have alleged in the court papers is that Ms. Birchmore told Mr. Farwell several times that he was the father. And your question about the state medical examiner, obviously, they don't report to me, and that's a question better directed to the state medical examiner.
Mathew is mentioned here, but we've heard reports over the years of several other officers. Have you guys conducted any other ongoing investigations related to Sandra?
So I think Assistant Special Agent in Charge Kelleher alluded to the fact this is an ongoing investigation. I'm not going to comment on what the other pieces are that we're looking into, but it's an active investigation.
So
Shelley?
this is a death penalty eligible case.
Huh? Oh, I think he brought me in. Did he bring me in? Am I up? I can't hear. Oh, jeez. What happened to my settings?
Is that on the table or is that already off the table?
Shelley, you're absolutely correct. The
Can you hear him?
maximum
I can't-
penalty under this statute
I'll log out. Let me log out.
as charged is a sentence of death.
I
And
can't hear
whether
him.
to seek the death penalty in a federal case is decided at the highest levels of the Department of Justice. That decision has not been made on whether the death penalty sought in this case, and that process will continue, but I can't comment on it beyond that.
Would you favor that? Would you push for that?
Not going to comment on it. It's a process that involves a lot of people at the Department of Justice.
Can you hear me? Oh, you can't hear me. I don't know. Can they hear me? Can people hear me? Okay, I can't hear you, Mike. I can hear Josh, but I can't hear you.
And I'm not going to share my view on this.
Did all other officers in Stoughton or Stoughton government know about the grooming, the underage sexual contact that Mathew Farwell was having with Sandra when it was going on in those early 2010, 11, 12, 13?
You know, I'm not going to comment on information that's not in the public
I've
record.
been muted.
as,
That's so funny. It
as
wasn't
you heard,
Rita,
this
it's
is an
me.
ongoing matter, so we're gonna
You guys
continue
could hear.
looking-
Oh, I should have checked the chat. Rita, call back. That's so funny. It was me. Well, I'm gonna call Rita right now. I'll get Rita back. Hold on one second. This has been a funny day. I'm on this new what do you call it? Browser. There we go. Hey Rita.
I can hear you now.
It was me.
Oh, okay. I'm like, what am I doing?
No, it's just this StreamYard thing has pissed me off today. It's just unbelievable. It's a long story, but we'll get back to what we were trying to do here. We can hear everybody now. Good.
Oh, good. What a great day, huh?
Yeah.
What a great day for justice.
How about it?
How about it? How about it? It's like, okay, that's one domino down. And, Sandra Birchmore is going to get justice. And the people here, the good people in this country are making sure of it. And that is exciting for our country. That's exciting for us. Law-abiding citizens, no one is above the law. No one. And so this is great news. It's unfortunate his child was there, but it is what it is. I mean, they arrested him, and he is now going to stand trial. So I know, for one, I'm very happy. And anyone that conspired with him, and it looks like we got a lot of the same characters. The feds know. The feds have the facts. The feds know how he did that extraction. Garino did that extraction. The truth will come out. The truth is coming out. So I'm very happy today. We got some good news.
Yeah, I mean, what do you think this is going to do with the Canton Select Board now? Are they going to?
They're not going to do it.
They're not going to. They're going to continue to ignore this.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. They're going to ignore it until they can't. And these are all the same players. It's all the same players. And Nick Garino, if people thought that Paul was a joke, I mean, the two of them, I don't know which one's worse. I really don't. They pretty much put their careers on the line for these people. And, I would never do that. But, people did that. So now we're going to see how this plays out, and we're going to see what the consequences are for behavior like that. No one is above the law. And I loved it when Josh Levy said that. Just because they have badges and guns does not mean that they are above the law. They are not above the law. We are all Americans. We are all held to the same standards. And just because people have a position of power does not give them the ultimate power to choose what they're going to do and what they're not going to do, and what laws they're going to abide by and what laws they're not going to abide by. So it's one domino, but I'll take it.
I wonder where it's going to go next. What do you think?
So look, I mean, I think all these players, I think by the time Karen's retrial comes, which is, I mean, that's on life support right now. It's on life support. Let's face it, everybody. Karen's retrial is on life support. And I don't think that it's ever going to happen. The people that were the witnesses or the investigators or the crime lab or the expert, crime scene whisperers, we're going to see they're going to see justice. They're going to see justice. And they are not, their credibility, we always knew they had no credibility. Now it's coming out even more and more. You don't miss 32,000 text messages unless when you do your extract, you say, ignore deleted messages or ignore deleted messages from Mathew Farwell's phone number. It's a program, people. I don't work in the crime lab. I am from corporate America. I've extracted reports. I've requested extractions. You put the parameters in. It's like a recipe. You put the ingredients in. You say, give me this, and that's what you get back. And if you say, do not give me deleted phone calls or do not give me anything from this phone number, then voila, you're not going to get it. But the feds are going to get it because they have access, I'm sure, to how he did his extraction. And
Right.
if their information shows that he deliberately, excluded certain criteria, for me, that's lights out.
Yeah.
Lights out.
But what if he excluded Apple iPhone? I mean, that was what
Yeah,
they did
right.
we found Proctor doing on some other stuff. So
Yes, the geofence.
yeah.
The geofence, a year and a half. For people that are new to this, I think it was in June of 2023 where the defense, a year and 15, 16 months later, the defense is going back and forth because they wanted the geofence. And of course, the prosecution wouldn't give it to them. And then when the prosecution finally gave it to them, they gave them only Google phones.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, oh, nobody's going to notice that, yes, we asked
We're
for
not
this.
going to use the most popular one.
Exactly. We're not going to put eggs in our cake. We're just going to make it without cake, and nobody's going to notice that the cake has no eggs. I mean,
So
it's like,
funny. Hey, we also have Peter Murphy in the green room. Let's bring him up too.
Yes.
He's a former retired Canton police sergeant, I believe it is. And I think Como just showed up too. So let's bring up Peter Murphy first. Hey, Peter Murphy.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Hi, Rita. Good to see everyone. Hello, Mike.
How you doing? Are you happy tonight?
Quite a day. I can't tell you the exhilaration, the emotional feeling that I got when I saw that break. It was just crazy. And I was riding around Canton at 6 o'clock this morning watching dozens of cruisers pull into town, and I assumed that was going to be part of the crankdown by the feds, but that didn't make sense because maybe some of those troopers might have been part of the target. So I quickly dissolved that, and I had some input from Dennis Sweeney with a picture, and I saw officers and troopers in their dress uniforms, and I said, no, this is not a raid, this is a parade or a funeral.
Yeah, it was for a funeral.
Yes,
and then some shit actually happened, which is
yes, it did.
Good stuff. I texted you. You said I was the one that broke the news to you. I got tipped off before the news even hit from this guy here, John Como. Before anyone knew, you knew. How did you know? You were the one that told me before it happened.
I know nothing. If you told me Peter was going to be on, I probably would have passed
Turtle
tonight.
Boy. You scooped Turtle Boy on this one.
I didn't scoop anyone. I just, things come my way. I don't know. The clock's right twice.
Somebody out there.
Clock's right twice a day. Yeah. Hi, Peter. Hi, Rita.
How does everyone feel? I mean, I know John doesn't live in Canton anymore, but you grew up in Canton. You graduated from Canton High. Rita lives in Canton, from Canton. Peter is from Canton. He doesn't live there anymore, but he's a former retired Canton police officer. How is everyone feeling? Like, who wants to go first? This is kind of
Rita.
a crazy big day.
Go ahead, Rita.
Yeah, I'm feeling excited. I'm really encouraged. I'm actually so encouraged. I'm like this close to turning over my letter. But I want to make sure I have a good handoff. I mean, Helena wanted me to give it to them, and I believe that she was going to give it to the Mass State Police. And that's not going to happen. But I'll give it to the Plymouth people, but I think they just do fingerprints. I don't think they do DNA. So, there's an issue there. But I am really happy. I'm cautiously optimistic for the future. We have had our hopes up so many times, and I just don't want to do that again. But this is great news for Sandra. And I'm so happy for her and her baby. And she will get justice. She will get justice. What these people did to her, how they passed her around and used her, it's deplorable. And they will pay. All of them will pay. All of them. I believe that. And I just want to comment, how like they say we're a circus, but we're not a circus. A circus is, clowns. That's what the trial is. We have been cheerleaders, absolute cheerleaders. We are cheering Team American Justice. We are cheering the American justice system, and we are saying it will prevail over corruption. And people who have guns and badges, who think they're above the law, we're cheering that the American justice system is going to bring you down.
Just boom, boom, bah.
Yes, no more. Everybody has to abide by the laws. Everybody. Nobody is above the law. And I got to tell you, it's really, it's kind of scary in a way to realize in this small town how the powers were and have been, you work for the police, you work for the town, and suddenly, you are entitled to certain privileges that the rest of the population are not. And that's just not right. That's just not right. So I'm happy, and I'm looking forward to more good news.
Awesome. We're getting a lot of super chats about something every time John's on.
Oh, yes.
I don't have so
John, don't
listen.
Do it yet.
I don't have my
save it to the end. Save it to the end.
For all the people that
gotta keep them here.
I'm not wearing my old man glasses. Okay, so I can't read any of the super chats.
But I just want to say I'm going to read
I
the
know.
super chats. But
if I had seen it, it would probably be off by now.
You got to keep them. You
Yeah.
got to keep them to the end.
Yeah, I'll just
'cause
take
this is
one
what
arm
they're
out.
saying.
How's that?
No, 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 no. Keep it on to the end.
No, because it's a serious issue sometimes.
So
I mean,
Melissa says, "Hi,
I'm a
John.
clown,
Take
but
off
you
your
know,
shirt, Miss."
yeah.
Ask them. And then Candy says, "Hi, John. Take off your shirt for Miss
Pete,
Shorty."
So,
It's got
oh,
wait
hi,
till
Miss
the
Shorty.
yeah, we're gonna
So-
wait till the end. We don't know.
So Peter will agree with me that even up until all of this happened with Karen, that there are people who thought they could just bully their ways. There are people at the Canton Police Department that use fear and intimidation. They kind of use the gray area of the law to intimidate even fellow retired officers. Peter's not the only retired officer that this has happened to. Am I
Peter, you
wrong?
wanna comment
Am I
on
wrong,
that?
Peter?
No, you're point on. You're point
Yeah.
on. Yeah, and we know we know Rita and many of her fellow commentators that have been before the select board meetings
Yep.
and so forth. They have accrued quite a list of we would call them misdeeds towards citizens, and yeah, it's out there. It's out there. So we're gonna fix it. We
Yeah,
ain't
we
got no
are.
quit. We ain't got no quit.
That's
So-
right. We're
Yeah.
on Team American Justice, and we are going to fix it. We're
So-
not going to stop till we do.
I'll give you a little tidbit that so there was talk. Let's just say some Mass State Police knew about what was going on they knew last night. And just like, everybody talks. Whether you're up at town hall and people talk about what's going on, whether you're at the fire department and people are talking the same thing happened. And so things come my way, and I knew something was going to go down. I just didn't. I don't want to be the one to break news. I don't want to be the one to be the first one to go out there. But we knew it was going to be a good day today. I had such a good sleep last night. I was like a kid before Christmas. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be great. So I just didn't know it was
Give me
going
a
to.
hint. Give me
I
a
just
hint,
didn't know
so
it was going to go
yeah.
down the way it did. I
was
wasn't
not
given
prepared
all of the
today.
information. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they I mean, more than, obviously the feds use other they're in conjunction with other departments, and, this time it wasn't a complete secret. So, yeah, just happened to fall in my lap.
Let me ask you this. What would you all like to see happen with the select board? Because now this has become something that they can't deny, that their Canton Police Department, it doesn't look good for them right now, and the state police especially, obviously, but the DA obviously as well. But this trickles down to Ken and the Canton Police Department.
There was a rumor that they're using the excuse. It's twofold. Mike Loughran did say that he had it with these people, but they're using that excuse because there were a number of meetings ago. Remember, there was a gun issue on the street over from town hall that was reported, and they had all the police. We saw the pictures of the police going up and down Pequot Street looking for a shooter or something. Well, the selectmen got scared, is what it is, and so there's been rumors that that's what they're afraid to go up to town hall for that. If it's both, it's both. They're still not. That means they're still not capable of leading the town.
Absolutely. And I'm going to say something. As a citizen in this town, okay, it takes guts to do what the people who are standing up are doing. And if the select board does not have those guts, then resign your position.
If you can't lead, you can't leave from your kitchen. You just can't.
You can't lead from your kitchen, and you can't lead because you're afraid. You have to be. People go into battle all the time. That's why we have this country. People go into battle knowing that their safety could be at risk, but they do it for the greater good of this country. And they need to do it for the greater good of this town. And if they don't have what it takes, which clearly many of them don't, then step aside, please.
Yeah.
Because we are going to get hit with significant lawsuits, and we are going to, people need to know. We're doing research right now. I'm doing research right now. I just got information today. I haven't had a chance to look at it to try to anticipate what's coming down the pike and what exactly are our leaders going to do about it. Because you can't wait until the house is on fire and burnt to the ground. You got to get your team out there and get proactive ahead of it. And we're not ahead of it. We're just going to let it all just mow us all down. And I'll be down too. That's not going to be me.
They're doing what Michael Morrissey is asking them to do. Basically, they are doing that's John Conley and Mike Morrissey are like this. So that's what's going on. And now that Michael Loughran's the chair, he's falling right in line. And you have Chris. JR was at town hall doing that Zoom meeting last meeting. JR was at town hall. So wasn't the secretary when she did her. You could see the fax machine behind her. And so wasn't people calling me there. And so wasn't Trotter when he was giving his presentation. He was downstairs. You had 3 people during. Right. But yet they can't open the room to people.
Right. It makes them look so bad. And when they look bad, instead of owning it, they're blaming others. And so are the McAlbert Friends and Family in Time. They're blaming people like me, for the attention that's on this town and they just want to sweep it under the rug. No, we're not going to sweep this under the rug. That's not what you do. When you have a wound, you got to clean it out in order for it to heal. And that's what we have to do. We have to build this town back up. This isn't about taking this town down. This is about building the town up and holding people accountable. And if you're in an office or if you're in a position, a job, you're expected to do that job. And if you're not going to do that job, then you need to step aside and let somebody else do that job. And I intend to continue to hold people accountable. Absolutely. And, and we are working on stuff and stuff. It's stuff. I'm not ready to reveal it yet, but we're working on stuff. And the town hall knows what we're working on because they see the requests.
And stuff.
It's great stuff. And I'm sure the federal government's going to find it too, and whatever. So.
Peter, what say you?
Yeah, there you go. Thank you, John.
Good job, John. Good job, Peter. I just, I can echo what both of you said, that this is, they have to open up the public comment period. They have to let the constituents back into the forum. They have to let them come in and speak. And listen, if they're afraid, I think John mentioned it, that they're concerned about a report that somebody had a firearm or something a couple of weeks ago, and that's why they've backed out of the open comment in-person forum. Well, God damn it, do something with law enforcement and the chief of police so that you don't have to worry about things. Take care.
You can't. She's at Foxborough.
Oh.
Sorry. Sorry.
At least 2 of the 3 Kenny Chesney nights. I was in the 3rd night, but I didn't go looking for her.
What a sweet gig that is to get free concert tickets.
Yeah.
So who's she serving? I mean, she gets her salary and then she gets overtime money too from Foxborough?
No, it's not overtime money. It's detail money. She gets paid from them, not by us. But I'm sure she took her Canton provided cruiser down there, right?
Kind of divided loyalties.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if I could say, if I were the police chief and my town was in the situation that it was in, well, I would love to go to Gillette Stadium and get a perk like working detail with a concert. My first priority would be my town.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's in crisis. And so that's what I would do to save my town. I think the priorities are a little imbalanced there, just a little. And, I don't know what she's thinking. I really don't. I mean, look, I don't fault her for wanting to pick up a detail at a concert.
They are not changing how they do. They double down, triple down. They are going to refuse to do anything, because by doing that, it makes it look like we won, and they are not going to let the people win.
Well, I don't think it's about the people winning. I think it's
in their minds. In their minds. In their minds.
Yeah. I mean, look, people who don't always tell the truth and repeatedly don't tell the truth, maybe they just don't understand what reality is, and reality is coming. And people are going to be held accountable. I believe in the federal government. I believe that there are more good people in this country than there are bad. And I believe there are more good people in law enforcement and the legal system than there are bad. But when the bad are bad, they make them all look bad. And it's time for people to come together and use their voice and say, no, we're America. We're America. This is the American justice system. So I'm like, this is what this has done to me today. I'm like, justice is winning.
I feel, I'll tell you, I hope that the Birchmore family just, it's tragic. I just hope they're so proud that finally they're getting some piece of justice, because everybody is known. Everybody's known. And that's the thing. When it stares you right in the face and now they get a little bit of peace of mind.
I think they get a much better chance of winning that lawsuit too.
That somebody's out there fighting for them. Not just, there's people out there fighting for them, but finally someone in law enforcement is out there fighting for them.
The feds, the FBI.
Does Sandra have a lawsuit?
Yes, her family does.
Interesting. I mean, it makes sense.
Civil suit,
I did a FOIA request for all the lawsuits that are outstanding on Canton right now. So I'll get them, I think, by September 11th. So it will be interesting to see. So the town knows, people can say, oh, don't talk about it. But, it is going to hit the taxes. It is going to hit all of us. And people need to know what's coming down the pike so we can plan accordingly.
Yeah. Peter, what do you think Canton Police Rafferty should be doing right now?
As we speak, or in general, mission statement, I think, I think she's got to go over what has gone wrong. What has gone wrong with the department and their inconsistencies and failures and shortcomings. Of apparently both investigations, but certainly more the Reed. And I don't know, maybe come out and say, we mishandled this. And rather than ask everybody to have patience, maybe say, we're going to fix it.
Yeah. Why won't she do that? Why? 'Cause she hasn't done anything like that. All she's done is attack citizens. Why won't she actually do something which seems so logical and reasonable? Why won't she? Because I know she won't. Why do you think, Peter?
I don't know. I honest to God don't know the answer to that. I wish I did.
I think.
Go ahead, Rita.
I think it's deny, double down, triple down, quadruple down.
Deny till you die.
Yeah, and deny until you die. Yeah, and hope it goes away, and it's not going away. It's not going away. I mean, it's just not.
It just adds more fire to the silence. It just makes people more angry, especially after all the shit trash that she talked. She talked a lot of trash.
Yep. And that's another thing. The police audit. Can I mention that?
Yes. Let's talk about that.
Yes.
Yes. So for anyone who doesn't know, and we had approved last November at a special town meeting that the citizens requested an audit of the police department. And so it finally went out for requests for proposals. It's called an RFP process. And it finally is available for firms that do that kind of work to reach out to Randy Scollins in our finance. He's our finance director, to get the RFP, which has the details of what we're looking for in the audit. So we really need people to spread the word. Anyone that's in the industry that does this work, and any place that you see, it was posted. Mike, you posted it today on Twitter. I don't have Twitter. I just can't do it. But if people can share that and reach out to people that that do audits, we are auditing the police department policies and procedures, their compliance against it. We're also auditing the governance of the police department, which is the select board. And this is something, and I believe that when we do this, if we get the right firm, and so many people have come forward with recommendations, but please keep sending them in. If we do this with the right firm, this could be the blueprint to help other people who have the same issues or may not realize you have the same issues in your town. This is so important. So please, if you know somebody in the industry, have them, the proposal is in the COM system, COMMBUY system. It's a municipal system, but it's the Canton, Massachusetts Police Department. Reach out to Randy Scollins, R. Scollins at town.us.
Yeah.
Yes. So please, we need to get the best companies in here to bid on this job. And it could be great for them because this is quite a challenge. And, somebody posted today, or somebody might walk away from this. Are you kidding me? Somebody who does audit, this is what they live for, because they are going to dig in and they're going to find what we're doing right. And they're going to find what we're not doing a lot right. We have the John O'Keefe murder trial, and we have the Sandra Birchmore, and we have the Craig Casey. We have 3 bodies that showed up. And we need to improve what we're doing and the way we do things. And we've seen from this case, both the Canton police, both the Mass State Police, that people are not following policies and procedures. If you're not going to follow policies and procedures, then you need to find another job.
Rita, will they be looking at any of the payroll?
That's a good question. I'm glad you asked that. So
Thank you.
I'm looking at it. I'm looking at it right now. As a matter of fact, I'm looking at it, and I have the payroll reports, so I am looking at it, and but it's preliminary, so I'm not going to comment on it.
Okay.
And I do believe that they will look at that. I have to go back and find that out. I do believe they're looking at it, and if they're not, it's okay. We have plenty of people that can look at it. It's really.
Oh yeah, no. I'm just curious because obviously the big one that stands out is how someone can do 30 hours of overtime every week for a year. I just don't understand how someone.
1 week it was 80. 1 week it was 80.
How do you get 80 hours of overtime on top of your regular pay?
Yeah.
Well, have you seen all the federal?
And that's not even details.
charges
That's
about
80 hours.
Right.
Yeah, but that's 80 hours of overtime, not 80 hours of detail.
So it's not 80 hours of overtime. It's it's preliminary. So I don't want to say I just started looking at it. It is eye-opening. And having overseen business area. I mean, this is a business. This is a business. I'm curious, now that you brought it up, I'm curious who signs off on the payroll? Who signs off on what I'm seeing?
Yeah.
And because what I'm seeing is, I have questions.
Mm-hmm.
And
I want to say that
that's Melanie Little right there. I've got questions.
What we were just talking about, that flyer is on our Twitter, it's on our Facebook, it's on our YouTube. If you have any friends, especially if they're law enforcement consultants or they're accountant types, they're auditors, investigative journalists, even, if they have a company, they should, check this out, apply to it. I've sent it to several law enforcement friends who are consultants. I just thought of another one who ran for a state auditor, a Republican. I was like, maybe Anthony Amori. Like, that's another one I just thought of. So I just forwarded to Anthony Amori, a friend of ours. But that's the idea. People, you got to think about people and if you know someone, forward it to them. Send them a text. Screenshot that little flyer that Rita put together for us, and make sure people are aware of it.
Absolutely, because it's networking, guys, and that's how it's done. And somebody sent me something, and I believe the name of the company it's abbreviated. It's COPS, I think. And and if somebody knows somebody, this company looks fantastic. Justice Department announces an organizational assessment of the Charlottesville, Virginia Police Department under the COPS Office Collaborative Reform. So there is a Justice Department, and it's called COPS, and it stands for Community-Oriented Policing Services Office. So if anybody knows anybody that works there or works in South Carolina that's working with this organization, please reach out to them and ask them to submit a bid. They look fabulous. It looks like it's the federal government. So anyone, if you know someone, please, this is how we're going to get the best of the best in here, because we want to get it right.
Excellent. I hope there's a lot of applications to it, you know?
Yes, and it's a complex. I mean, it's a detailed, RFP. I mean, we sat through the meeting as it was being, teased out. It's a detailed one. We have Labor Day weekend coming up, which, a lot of people are on vacation, whatever. And the deadlines, these are critical deadlines. So bidders have until September 13th to ask questions. After September 13th, they're not going to answer questions. They have until September 13th to ask questions. And then from what I understand, they will update the RFP, or they'll do amendments to the RFP based on what some questions were. And then September 30th, which is a Monday at noontime, that's it for the bids. And so the bids, and there's a certain way the bids have to come in, but we really, I mean, people all over have been reaching out, all over the world, and you guys are the best. We need you to keep doing it. Reach out to someone in this industry. And, like I say, this Cops Place, this looks great too. I'm not choosing who it does. I just know from a business standpoint, we want the best of the best to come forward, and that will give them plenty to choose from. And hopefully we will get an unbiased decision.
Hopefully it's a nationwide search. It's not
Yes.
just one or two locals.
Exactly. We prefer it to be nationwide. We want a credible firm. And, look, we're spending $200,000. And, some people may take the attitude, well, just get it done. No, we need to get it done right. Otherwise,
One
we're
time.
wasting $200,000.
Exactly. And you have one shot at this. And there's a lot of money to be spending.
It is a
when you
lot
could
of
be
money.
buying books and school lunches and all that other stuff. Here's a comment that came up. I want to ask, especially Peter and Rita on this. This person suggests that the Canton Police Department become CALEA accredited.
Yeah, what does that mean?
I don't know.
I'm not familiar with that acronym. I don't know. Calia. I don't know.
I just wrote it down. And I'm going to look it up. And I thank
I'm
you.
going to look it up right now. CAL. What is it? CALAE?
CALEA.
EA.
Yeah. ELEA. Yeah. And this is, this is what's wonderful, is that when we share on shows like this or on social media, people come back and share their expertise with us. And it takes a village. It takes a village. And people all over are joining forces with us. And it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing.
It appears that I'm looking at that post that Mike just referenced, and it appears that Brenda S. is the one that brought that question forward. It also indicates, I believe I know who the author is of this chat, and it says used to lower insurance rates to the police departments in towns that are accredited under this CALEA. So
yeah, we have it up on
like,
the screen. We have it up on the screen.
Like
the gold standard public safety. The Commission on Accreditation for Law Enforcement Agencies.
Right.
Oh, excellent.
So it's CALEA.org.
Right.
Awesome. I'll look into that. And that's what I feel. I mean, I feel like the select board's not doing their job, so we will do it for them. We'll
I mean, with all the issues going on in Canton, you'd think that the select board would have already thought of this or already suggested something like this. It's unbelievable that it came out from the audience tonight that this hasn't been a topic.
Yeah, I don't know. I took a preliminary look. I don't know. I think we have too many people working together, and I think that sometimes they lose objectivity and look the other way or whatever. And that's just my personal opinion. I want to preface that. That's my personal opinion. And we have to have checks and balances. We don't have proper checks and balances. There's no way. There's no way we have proper checks and balances. There's no way. Not what I've seen in just the little I looked at from this payroll report. It looks completely out of whack. And from a leadership standpoint, I'd like to know who's responsible for it. Because, you know, some of these things, you know, hey, look, I could be wrong, but John, I'm with you. How does somebody work, you know, 70,
Every week
65,
overtime.
70 hours, and sometimes 80, and sometimes get 2 checks for the same pay period? You know, how does that happen? I don't know. I'm going to ask questions. And hopefully I'm wrong. And hopefully there's things I don't understand, and that would be great. But what I'm seeing, I mean, look, you know, I'm not the one who made $320,000 one year as a police officer, you know, and you
I
know,
mean, it's all good. It's all good to make. I want everyone to make money.
yeah,
But when you're DPW, fire department, police department, school department, when you're making money at the hands of your taxpayers, you probably want to make sure that it's on the up and up.
yeah,
Yeah,
I would think
you
so.
think?
I would think so. And
Yeah.
the fact that, you know, it just,
And if it's on the up and up, good for him. You know what I mean? Hey, good
Well,
for you that you work that much.
right. I mean, somebody who works like 5 weeks straight, like 65 hours a week,
Right.
70 hours, and doesn't get sick, you know, that's pretty interesting.
Well, you know what else that also says? That also says that if he's working that much, you don't have enough people that you could have a couple lower
That's right.
people
That's right.
instead of that one person just making it all.
That's
Yeah.
right. And
Yeah.
that's what an organization would do. A good business organization would do just that. But I'm not sure our municipal organizations are up to speed like that. I don't,
Yeah,
I
no,
don't
I don't
see
know
it.
at all.
They want stoves and fences.
Yeah, but they don't
Yeah.
want to get certified.
Right.
They don't want an independent organization dictating what they do in Canton. That's for sure.
Right. You know, and $320,000, and we got a crime scene that was a joke. I mean, come on, give me a break. What are we
So,
paying?
Speaking of that crime scene, so every day, you know, when I get up and I read, you know, I look at some posts and I go to the comments, and all it takes is one comment to trigger me to be like, okay, I'm gonna go back into the footage and see exactly what these people said, you know, during the trial. And I go in and I screen record it, and then I mash them all together, and I'm like, absolutely, like. He said, you know, Gallagher said he was there at 7:00, and he said he was there for 50 minutes. Now, it's not totally on him; it's partly on Lally too. Lally asked him, "Did you see anyone come out of their house?" He answered, "No." But the question should have then been, "Well, did anybody else come to the crime scene?" Because Higgins showed up at 7:30, 7:22, 7:30-ish. He was there before Julie ever showed up. They should have noted that, yeah, you know what? After I took pictures of the vehicles, another vehicle did show up and a person went in the house who was Higgins, who he knew.
Yeah.
Never made it to trial. That was never brought up unless you look at the exact timing of what everybody says they were doing. And you look at the footage of the cruiser cams, and you look, they have it. It's just that they conveniently cut it at certain spots. They don't let the whole thing run. They'll never let all the footage from the cruiser cams run. They only give you a couple minutes here, a couple minutes there.
For $320,000, I would expect a button-up crime scene. I would expect perfection.
Absolutely.
Perfection.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's hardly what we got. So, you know, his salary, and others are out there. Others are out there as well. And the report that I saw said that, you know, the last quarter of, I think, 2022, Helena had 0 details, which is kind of interesting, but, and everybody else did. So
Right.
I don't know. You know, I'm looking at it, and I'm sure I'm not the only one looking at it. And, you know, we need to look at that. So if this is what Randy Scollins is doing, and he looks at this stuff, that's kind of interesting.
What, Peter, overtime? What do you think? Do you think there's some shenanigans going on over there or not?
Well, let me add this to the equation. There is in the rules and regulations, I believe they're still there. They were when I was there for many, many, many years. It was that you could not. They had what they call a 16-hour rule, a 17-hour rule, which means if you worked 17 hours, you couldn't be asked for a 4-hour detail somewhere else. You had to say no. Usually the sergeants call for the details. They'd say, you know, Officer X, do you want a detail today? Or 6 o'clock to 10 o'clock at the Canton gymnasium or whatever for a game. Gee, I'd love to take it, Sarge, but I can't. I already worked 16 today. I worked 8-hour shift and I worked an 8-hour, you know, whatever.
Whopper and overtime.
Midnight to 8
Yep.
shift. So I've got 16 in the books already in a 24-hour period. Can't take it. Sorry. I don't know if, you know, what Rita's talking about in this audit situation, if you're going to be able to go back and say, with all these hours worked, was that rule enforced? And there lies a major problem. This is a paramilitary operation. You have to follow rules and regulations. You have to follow protocols. And if you don't, the outcome is very bad. And I think we've seen that. So, you know, if I know when I was there were a couple of lieutenants looking over our shoulders. If you didn't play the game, they'd play it for you. And it became glaringly important that you paid attention, you followed the rules, and they'd write you up if you didn't. My understanding is that accountability has gone out the window.
Peter, I got a question for you.
Okay.
So you just said, you know, you have to follow the chain of command.
Correct.
So Gallagher followed the chain of command. He called Tommy Kelleher, right? And he also ordered everybody to stay. Didn't he said something like he ordered everybody that was on to stay on, right?
You're speaking, he being the first person of Gallagher?
Gallagher, yep.
Okay.
Gallagher ordered everybody to stay, right?
Off the midnight shift.
And his first call was to Tommy Kelleher because that's his immediate supervisor.
So what's
that
the
would make
question?
sense if that's the case. I mean, he's
Okay.
got.
Get to the question,
It
John.
is. Okay. Well, when you make that call to your immediate supervisor who lives across the street from a crime scene, why didn't he come out? They ordered everybody. Why wasn't everybody there?
Well, that's what I've advocated all along. It should have been all boots on the ground. They should have done a total, in my opinion, a total recall for anybody that was able to drive in a 2-inch snowfall accumulation at that point. I would suggest they could have been told, you know, bring an overnight kit, a toothbrush, because we're going to get a storm, but we need you here right now to find out what happened and start looking at ring cameras and going up and down and canvassing witnesses. And
But he was there to provide the solo cups, but yet he didn't provide his own services.
And then they
as a supervisor.
I agree. I mean, in my opinion,
Rank activated himself. Why didn't Tommy Kelleher activate himself?
Maybe he felt like there was a conflict.
Could be. Maybe, yeah. I want no part of this.
Yeah,
Close my blinds.
I think he was smart.
Closing my
actually, right?
blinds. Look
Yeah.
the other way.
Protect
Yeah.
myself.
That's not
I
an
know this is
excuse.
shady.
Ignorance is not an excuse.
Yeah.
He can't. I mean, he's not. He lives right across the street.
I want to ask Sean about you grew up with some of these characters. You know that I know Tommy from Bridgewater State College.
Yeah.
I know that you were in the band with Lucky, but you were also in the band with Robert Devine, weren't you?
I was. Yeah. All 4 years we graduated together.
What
Yeah.
kind of guy was he? Tell us about him.
We were a different bunch. All right. When you're in the band, I was lucky enough I played hockey, so I could take my frustrations out on the ice. But yeah, it's one of at Canton High, the way it was set up, the band is down behind, the band room is down behind the auditorium. Like, kids would, you go up to the cafeteria, grab your lunch and go right back down. Like, you could hide from the rest of the school for like half the day, except for when you're in your classes. The rest of the time you were gone. And, it's a little different. We all were, but, it's tough because, there was some public issues that he had a number of years ago that everybody knew about. It's been in it was in all the papers, and I thought that was going to be the end of it until you see his name pop up again with the Birchmore thing, and it's sad. It's really a sad story.
Did you think he was a creepy guy or not?
When you're in high school, I mean, I don't know if you know who's creepy or not in high school, but no, I know he went off and went to the Coast Guard and was in the Coast Guard, and then, you know, I mean, at one point he was going to be the next chief. You know, he was right up there. He was the deputy chief. You know, and he was the spokesman of the Stoughton Police Department. And you know, everybody makes these choices.
Absolutely. What's
Yeah.
the feeling like in the Canton community today? You think, like after all this news today?
What do you think, Rita?
Well, I think, I mean, I've seen people on social media, everybody's cheering, everybody's happy. I think that the McAlbertson Company will just poo-poo it and, like they do. And this has nothing to do with whatever. And they can continue to live in that, altered reality.
Cocoon. They're in their own cocoon.
Yeah, it's an altered reality. And I'm all for living in the real world. And so I think, and there's a lot of people reach out to me all the time, and they are with us, and they just are afraid. They're afraid to say anything. They're protecting their children who are still in school. They're protecting their families. They're protecting their business.
Their businesses. Yep.
People, you lose loved ones, right? You lose loved ones because you speak out and they don't want you to speak out because it causes suffering to them.
You look at the person who owns the newspaper. She was one of the most liked persons, still is one of the most liked persons in town for the Citizen. And to know what she has gone through for the last year at the hands of some of these people.
What has she gone through? What has she gone through? Kind of tell
threats upon threats, basically, threats on everyone's going to pull their advertising to, close up your paper and leave town. And how dare you allow people to be able to post their letters on your paper.
Yep. They were upset that I posted letters. They were upset that the paper would post my letters.
They want that paper as vanilla as the police log.
Yeah, they want it exactly. They don't want this out there.
No.
And they want to bury it. And you cannot bury it. You cannot bury it. Because that's why we are where we are. Because people have not said anything. They've just accepted it.
Yeah. You'd think that would change after a while. Like when Berkowitz tried to cover up the fact that it was an Albert House with the reporter, and Turtle Boy exposed that, and the reporter exposed that. You think that they might get a clue eventually that that's not working.
Oh, and don't forget, and don't forget, right after he did that, Helena had cable. Get rid of Higgins's speech.
Yeah.
The 8-minute,
Yeah.
the 8-minute speech about if you want to hide a body, he's the one to call.
How do we know it's 8 minutes, Peter? How do you know that? That sounds like you have more inside info. What's going on there? How do you know it's 8 minutes?
My clouded, overloaded brain just, I remember hearing there was 8 minutes erased. Maybe I got it from Canton Community Paper itself, our organization.
Yeah.
Have we gotten any closer to like finding out if we'll ever see that video?
You will never see it.
No, it's deleted.
You think
Gone.
the feds have it? You think the feds got it?
Gone. It's gone.
Unless somebody has it on their
Like their
TV.
phones.
I
Yeah.
can't believe, and nobody's spoken about it that was there. Everyone, the 100+ people that were at that party.
Well, I will give you this. So there's a very high-ranking person in the Boston Police Department who, before Sean went on with his show the other night, talking about all of Brian Alberts's little mishaps, it basically literally said he knows where all the bodies are buried because he's the one that put them there. So I already had that in my head, and I watched Sean's show.
Again. I didn't get who said that they
somebody in the Boston Police Department.
So someone in the Boston Police Department said that to Sean.
No, to me that Brian knows where all the bodies are buried because he's the one that put them there, and it's basically we know there's a blue line. They're not going to come out and support this guy, but they're not going to cross the line either. And the thing is all of a sudden now, finally, Sean is getting the good cops who are finally giving him information, at least, at their own perils because they don't want to be blacklisted in their own community. Because their biggest fear is they don't want to go to a call and not have backup
Yeah.
because they're the ones that ratted their brother out.
Yep. I mean, I think there's a lot of ways they could leak it without exposing themselves. So they just need to think like that.
Right.
I meet
I mean,
people,
my email's open.
I meet people all the time in law enforcement or retired law enforcement, and they're not shy. They're not shy. They are saying that they know that she was framed,
Yeah.
and so the only people, and I just want to say this because I always relate it back to business, and running this country is a business, and we have in business, if you have people that are not performing to standards and they're doing whatever, they go rogue and just do whatever they want, the good people leave. And then you're stuck with nothing but bad people. And I hear them say, well, people don't want to go into policing anymore. Well, that's because we're not doing anything about the problem. And if we're not doing anything about the problem, good people are not going to go into policing, and all you're going to have are rogue police officers. And that's a problem. The good cops have to come forward and say something. We are just people. We don't have badges. We don't have guns. If we can do it, they can do it. And the alternative is they leave the police force or they work in a place where they're absolutely miserable.
Right.
And no one should ever work in a place where you're absolutely miserable. You should love what you do or find another job.
So I have this
Especially
feeling.
in that career.
Yep. And I have this feeling that Mathew Farwell, they better have him in protective custody because if he wants to make a deal, if he doesn't want the death penalty and he wants to rather have life in prison or whatever it is, and he's willing to give up who helped him, and these people are going to want to shut him up, I hope that they're going to protect him and make sure nothing happens to this guy. As horrible a person he is, he might even be the key to some of this.
Let's hope so. I mean, let's hope, because obviously he could do self-harm too. So, I mean, legitimately that he would have a reason, no doubt about it. So
yeah, he might, he has that 5-year-old kid, and he might be willing to, at least be able to see his kid for visits and, whatever it is, if somebody, 3 kids. Yeah. So,
3 kids.
Right. So I don't know. I thought about that today. I'm thinking they better make sure that this guy is okay.
yeah,
Safe.
really.
Yep.
Yep. Somebody just commented, stop throwing trouble cops into schools. Yes, that's a problem. That's how
I think anyone should be very careful about bringing cops into your schools. Like it just because I didn't realize how much of a problem it was until I started Googling.
There's grade 1 through 5.
Like the Catholic Church. It's like the Catholic Church and the children. There's something and the Boy Scouts. It's like there's certain types of people that within the police department, if you have a problem with kids, you get assigned to the kids because that's what you like. Like that's what is going on with the Boy Scouts, and that's what goes on in the little leagues, and that's what goes on, so we got to be careful. I think there's definitely a problem there.
Absolutely. I mean, you have people in authority with uniforms on, and you got that 12-year-old girl who was looking for love, looking for guidance, and what they did to her is horrible. It's horrible. And, it is reminiscent of the police. It is reminiscent of some of these other things. People in authority like that, I understand it. I mean, I thought it was a community thing and bring the community in, but I'm thinking it's not really a good idea. I don't think it's a good idea. I don't.
Too much power imbalance.
Yes.
Even among because I used to be a school teacher coach too. Like some of the coaches actually have that power imbalance too, where they have, especially like the football coaches, they have a lot of power over like even the administration in a weird way. But I think police do, especially, and I think that's another reason where the average teacher really has not much power. So if they're acting up and doing something wrong, it's going to get called out. And I think where a police officer, they I don't know, they get a pass. It's just a weird thing. So I just hope people are just aware of that situation. But Peter, let's go to actually final thoughts tonight. Let's start with John Como. What are your final thoughts tonight? Anything you want to bring up or promote?
Well, first, can we before we
whatever
go
you
to
want.
my
Go ahead.
final thought, Peter, what was your Twitter handle again?
Are you
Sergeant Slaughter?
Sergeant Slammer?
Okay, so if you want to follow Peter on Twitter, it's Sergeant Slammer with a capital S. He's Sergeant Slammer.
Like in the slam, like
yeah.
in the slammer, not physical abuse
Yeah.
in prison. In the slammer.
No, real quickly, it's a happy day and a sad day. It's just you got such mixed emotions, and I'm sure there's a lot of us that are like this. Like you said earlier, Rita, this is the first domino. I just hope that people still have patience because there's the likelihood of getting an alert tomorrow is not really going to be there. I mean, things take time, and they're not going to stack these things right on top of each other. So, you got to keep plugging for Karen, plugging for Sandra Birchmore, and you can't back down, and you have to talk to anyone and everyone that you can, right? There are people. Last week, John Conley's own neighbor didn't even know what was going on. And when he came out, I had to tell him, yeah, John's in there. He's in there having his meeting instead of being up at town hall. And so there are people that are unaware of all the different things going on. A lot of people, they go to work, they come home, they watch, I Love Lucy. They do whatever they want to do. They don't know what's going on in the town, and especially in Canton now with the amount of the condos. You have so many people that they walk down to the train, they take the train into town, they do their job, they come back home, and then they watch whatever they want to watch, whatever show they watch, and go to bed. They don't know all the things going on in the town.
Of course, yeah. Absolutely. At least half the population.
Right.
And that's a problem. That's a problem.
Yeah.
In this case, the more people spread awareness of this case, the more we are oh, John did. He took care of those people that
I figured I'd wait for you to start talking. Go ahead, Rita. Keep going.
I got 3 layers on. That's how I protect myself.
Keep going, Rita. What were you saying?
No, people, and I'm glad you said that because we have the police audit. We have to spread the word. Time is of the essence. We have a holiday weekend here, and check out Mike's tweet on YouTube, wherever he has it. Please share the information on the Canton audit. We need an incredible audit firm in here. And if somebody knows that place called Cops, that looks like a great place, reach out to them, have them send something to us. We appreciate that. And also this weekend, there's going to be a national standout. They're trying to get a national standout. In fact, people from Michigan, South Carolina, North Carolina, California, all over have reached out to me. And Paul Cristoforo and Deanna are running it. But here I am in my cheerleader mode. And listen, we are take to the streets, people. You don't have to figure out where one is. You can create your own standout. Just announce it. It's that simple. It's that simple. Go to the Michael's Craft Store or wherever. Make a sign that
I go to Hobby Lobby.
Yeah, I went to Michael's the other day. Michael's is pretty good.
Hobby Lobby.
Hobby Lobby. Yeah.
Oh my God, it's.
Put your heart and soul into it. Put your message on there. And I get these off Amazon. They're $1 a piece. I get them by the dozen. They're so good. And what it does is it draws attention and people want to know what you're doing. And that's how you get, some people resort to negative attention. We resort to positive attention. Yep. And that's how we get people raise awareness. And we wear pink. You don't have to wear pink. But listen, they're calling us the pink people. There we are, pink people. We wore pink the whole 10 weeks that Karen was at trial to show support for her because we were not allowed to have our signs in the buffer zone. So we wore pink because we could do that. So if you wear pink, that's even great. Get your pictures, post your pictures. You can stand out anywhere, any day of the week, anytime. Just put it on social media, let people know, and people will join you. And we always have positive attitudes. We never, here in Canton, sometimes we get the middle finger, we get,
The
obscenities.
salute? You get the salute?
We get the salute, but we always return it with love. We blow them kisses. We tell them we love them. We
Give
do
them
not
ducks.
return it with negativity.
Mm.
Yes, and ducks.
Ducks.
And yes. So,
Speaking of ducks, Peter, I'm going to need you Tuesday, 6 o'clock, 6:30. Can you help me out?
Tuesday,
there's nothing
6:30.
Tuesday. It's a week. It's the following Tuesday. It's not until the following Tuesday. There's nothing this Tuesday.
There's nothing this Tuesday?
No, it's the following Tuesday.
Yeah,
That next Tuesday, Peter, that next Tuesday, I need you.
A week from the next
It's
Tuesday.
the
Yes.
10th.
Yeah,
It's the
not
10th.
6:30. I need you at 6:30.
next
Yeah, it's the
select
10th.
board. All right, we're making
Yep.
plans.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm going to build
So-
that into my busy schedule. My day started yesterday and today at 03:30 hours, which means
Oh, boy.
3:30 in the morning.
That's too early. That's too early, Peter.
Were you
Peter's
all looking
ready
for
bed.
stripers?
No, I wasn't. I was doing a little surveillance.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Oh,
Well,
he
I
still
wanna
got
go
to invite me
stakeout with
onto
you.
his
He
boat.
does still have it.
Take me
Love
out
you,
with you.
Peter.
Karen Reed standouts.com is where you can find out about all the Labor Day standouts. You could, when you get on this, when you get on the website, click right here or just click right here and it'll take you to all. You see them all. You see them
Yes.
all. They're all
Wow.
listed here. Look how
Yep.
many there are now.
And if you do one, if you schedule one, put it in there, put it in the comments so they can post it. But let me tell you, it's like Field of Dreams. If you do it, if you stand out, they will
Oh,
come.
people come.
It's
Yeah.
so much fun. And this is what you're celebrating. You're celebrating your First Amendment right in this country to peacefully stand out. And we call it, we're not protesters, we're supporters. Protesters bring a negative connotation. We are supporters. We bring love. We bring hope. We bring compassion. That's what we bring. And we bring our positive attitudes. And we get out there and we cheer for Team American Justice.
Yeah, there's over 40 standouts right now.
Yes.
Plan. 40
And
of
there's
them.
so much fun. There's so much fun.
They
And there's
are.
so much love. It's unbelievable.
So we're looking forward to that Labor Day weekend. Hopefully, I'll be able to get out to one. I just got my AC fixed in the car, so I'll be.
There you go.
I'm
I'm gonna be
better
like-
riding out there. We'll be sweating. If I go, I got a lot of document covering. We'll see. I don't know. Peter, what are your final thoughts tonight?
I'd like to go with more of a generalization, which would be going back to the campaign, which I was quite active in, feeling that it was long overdue to get some new blood into the select board. And especially after the comment by the chairman that said, I won't say it over the air, but he had a very slang term for effing random citizens. I think you know about that one, don't you, Rita?
Oh, yeah. That was.
All right.
John Connolly.
He said it about me.
Oh, hearken to that.
Yeah.
So anyway,
I was the original.
So what I guess I want to comment at the end here for Mike and Rita and John is, with the campaigning for a change of the regime, which was much needed, a lot of our opinions, and evidently certainly in the community, as well as the audit proved that there was a need for change and for some. And here's what maybe we can help me with one of these, Rita. I had signs that I drove around with. I believe it was truth, transparency, accountability, and there was a fourth one that we were using, Rita or John, you might recall.
It was truth, justice. It was truth and justice. It was truth and justice. I had one that said United Citizens, standing for truth and justice. I mean, truth, justice, accountability, transparency.
I guess that was it. Maybe unity too. But anyway, the point I want to make simply is this town cannot move forward with the select board sitting on their hands and working from their houses on every other Tuesday. They have to come up, they have to put on their big people pants, and they have to take control of their own person and go forward with this and try to heal the town. Healing, I think, was one of them too, Rita.
Yes, it was.
We have to heal the town. The town is never going to heal if nobody wants to admit they have problems. because now that becomes part of the problem.
Yes. And, even though I'm not on the select board, they know I'm not going away. And we are, I've got a small team that, I'm working with, and we are working on things. So it is clear to me that the select board is going to continue to do what they do. And that's okay. I'm going to continue to do what I do, only more. And so, if you're not going to do
Same
that,
here.
no problem. I'll do it for you. I'll do it for you.
Same here, Rita. I pledged that I will stand out until they bring those in-person meetings back.
Yeah. But it's more than just bringing the in-person meetings back. It's talking to us, right?
Yeah.
They don't listen to us. We just talk. We talk for the cameras. We talk to get it out in the community so people know what's going on, because they're not addressing it. And a leader would say, okay, maybe this isn't the forum. Maybe I should meet with a small group of people offline.
They won't even put forums. They won't even put articles online for people. They won't put anything. Yeah, they won't put anything up.
Yeah,
an agenda item.
No, they won't. And we have submitted agenda items, and they will not put our agenda item up, because our agenda, no matter what, and it's not even related to the case. I have sent oodles of agenda items. They never acknowledge them. They never put them up because they don't want the open discussion. And so they know when they have an agenda item, that's when we can have an open discussion. Otherwise, public comments, there's nothing.
That is such bullshit. That is such bullshit. Like,
they've been over a year. For over a year, they've been trying to get agenda items on there.
Any other town select person just will put agenda items up when the citizen requests it.
Yes. Absolutely. And, we need to lead. And I am very appreciative that JR went into the building last week. That's a good sign. I'm encouraged that Lewis was in the building and the secretary was in the building.
That's four. You're right. That's four.
I mean,
JR, Lewis, the secretary, and Trotter.
I don't look at that as being a good sign, because I hear JR isn't coming back. I mean, he's the only one that I actually seem like I like, and he's not coming back, right? Is that the word on the street?
I didn't know. I didn't hear that.
And look, I heard that, anything can happen. I mean, I certainly, if I were any one of them, especially Chris Albert, if I was any one of them, I'm getting what, $100 a month to take this abuse? There's got to be something going on. There's got to be something else going on. They're not doing anything. And they're rubber stamping stuff. And it looks like they're rubber stamping the payroll. And the payroll is public information. So we're looking at it, Randy. And, I don't know who's responsible for signing off, but these things look something doesn't look right, And
Rita, what would I do if he quit, though?
If Randy quit?
No, if Chris quit. My memes would be gone.
Chris isn't going to quit. Chris isn't going to quit. Chris is in the long haul. He wants to have this little gold star on his little uniform or something. I don't know. I don't know. Chris isn't quitting. And, it is what, hopefully between now and the end of his term, he'll learn to read. But, I mean, that's the one good thing about making him clerk. They should have it that there should be a competency that you can read. But that's bad. But I know it is. But, I mean,
it is what it is.
It is what it is.
It is what it is.
When you think about it, right, and this is the message I want to get to people. When you think about it, the storm that is coming down the pike for this town of lawsuits and everything else that may or may not get exposed from the police audit, how are these people who can't even handle what's going on today going to handle that storm?
Yeah, that's why they need to get ahead of it. They need to come clean and come ahead of it, because like Bettero said, we had Bettero on earlier. Like every day since the trial, it's just gotten worse every single day. So it's going to continue. I want to thank you all for being here. Thank you so much, Rita Lombardi. Thank you, John Como, and thank you, Sergeant Peter Murphy from the Canton Police. He's retired now. Thank you guys so much for, and lady, Rita.
Yeah. Well, that's okay. I always say guys.
For being here tonight.
It's a New England thing.
Yeah. I mean, we all say guys.
And thank you, Miss Shorty, for your donation.
Yeah, we had some donations tonight. Thank you so much. I'm going to read the Venmos too. But thank you to our guests, most of all, for being here. Thank you, Attorney Bettero, for being here earlier. And have a great night. And we'll see you next time. We'll be going live again for the next select
and thank
board,
you,
too, right?
Mike, for giving us the platform.
That's right.
Absolutely, Mike. We
That's right,
couldn't do
Mike.
this without you. We
Yeah.
so much appreciate this.
So next a week from Tuesday, we'll be doing it again, definitely.
Yep.
Yes,
Week
the
from
10th.
Tuesday.
Okay.
I'm looking forward to it.
All right.
All
Everybody
right.
stay
Happy,
safe.
Be safe.
Peter,
Yeah.
Peter, we'll
You
talk.
Be safe.
Okay. All right,
all
John.
right. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Good night,
Bye now.
everyone. Bye-bye.
And we're the Young Jerks, and I just want to read a few Venmo. You got a good look at John Como, ladies. Yeah. Someday I might take off mine. He's getting me all. Oh, it's funny. All right. I want to thank Deborah. She said $20 on Venmo. So thank you so much, Deborah. She said, thanks for all you do. Thank you, Deborah. I also want to thank Paula. She's, I believe, John's girlfriend. Thank you so much, Paula. She's beautiful. She said, hello to my favorite panel. Today was a great day, wasn't it? And to think in a big way, it's just the beginning. Something else to think about. Each of you helped make this happen. The rest of the justice that's coming, I truly believe that. Thank you so much, Paula. She said $25 on Venmo. Yes, it is a good day. And Lisa, earlier sent $10 as well. Thank you so much, Lisa. And I'm going to check the Cash App real quick. Okay, we just got Caroline from earlier, which is great. I want to thank all of our guests tonight for being here. And we have pinned. Some people were asking earlier in the chat, how do you become a member on our YouTube? We just pinned it to the top of the chat, so you can hit it there. You can get right in there. Thank you so much to our moderators, Stephanie, Jenna, Jen, MJ, and Miss Shorty. Thank you so much for posting the links and running our chat. What I want to know before we leave, there's still a bunch of you here, over 1,500 on YouTube, and some people on Facebook and Twitch too. I see some Twitch and Twitter people too. I want to know before we leave, how many of you are planning to go to a Labor Day protest, and where? Which one are you going to be at? Which protest are you most likely to be at? Oh, not protest, rally, the Labor Day rallies. Karen Reed standouts on Labor Day. Where are you likely to be if you're going? You guys all check out on me. I don't see any comments right now. Everyone's getting ready for bed. It's late. One for going to the standout. Yes. I want to know where. Oh, here's one. Tasmania. They're going to do a standout in Tasmania, I guess. And Miss Shorty's got her, she's got something going on in Melbourne, Australia. I was hoping there'd be more. Oh, here we go. This guy's going to Punk and Dublick instead. I didn't ask for that. I want to know who's going to the standouts. Where? This one's he's going to Taunton. Taunton would be a good one. That's one you might actually see Karen Reed about, or Dedham. Someone said, Mike, I joined late, but why are people shying away from giving Kirk credit for Birchmore? Would you have him to talk about it? Yeah, absolutely. I actually sent one of his friends, supporters, a link tonight, but I didn't hear back. I was hoping Kirk might jump on tonight. I definitely give him credit for that. His case podcast was great. So I think Kirk definitely deserves credit for Sandra Birchmore. So I don't know who's doing that. Not me. Sherry D wants me to take it off. No. My girlfriend would give me hell for that one too. She'd be like, Show off. We got some more people who are going to do the standouts in Australia. Show us the chest. You want to see my chest hair? I don't have much. I have a little bit. It's not much. I got like this little tough. I'm pretty clean on the chest, and I don't shave. I'm not a big. You could tell. I only shave when I have to. I definitely. I don't have to shave my back, so it's good. Is another one. Either go to Dedham. All right. I guess most people are checked out. They don't. Maybe some people might not feel comfortable telling where they're going to be. Yeah. Here's another one for Dedham. Like me, I keep it a secret on where I'm going to go. Betterow coming up on the show. No, he was already on the show. He was on the show at like 5:45. Go all the way back to the beginning. Betterow was on earlier. All right, I'm going to head out. I want to thank everyone. I'm going to end with a little more levy. I mean, we could take a look at some of these filings, but I think we're good. I think we got to everything tonight. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great night. We're going to go back to Levy and watch the end of Levy.
This matter, and if there's other individuals.
Have a great night, everyone.
That we develop evidence they've violated the federal law, we'll proceed.
Josh, can you touch on, I mean, murder, state usually is the one that handles murder charges. Obviously, feds have jurisdiction on many cases, but what made this one get to federal authorities, and do you think that the state officials watched this investigation?
You know, there's a lot of overlap in the law between the federal government has jurisdiction over and what the state government has jurisdiction over. When someone comes to our office with credible information that a police officer may have been involved in a murder and underlying legal violations as set forth in the indictment, we're going to investigate that case every time. They come in different shapes and sizes, but that is our duty to the public, is to pursue credible leads like that and investigate them fully.
To follow up on her question, we saw Lieutenant Tully outside earlier. This was Norfolk Day's case first. You mentioned that they've been state partners throughout this. Does your office look into what may have went wrong in their investigation?
This case is about what went wrong for Sandra Birchmore and how she was treated by Mathew Farwell and how he violated her rights and ultimately killed her. That's what this case is about. It's not about what happens at other state agencies. This is about justice for Sandra Birchmore.
This is the second major death investigation where your office has come to a different conclusion than Norfolk County DA. I'm sure you can't comment on that, but is that normal for federal prosecutors and state prosecutors to reach different conclusions on investigations?
So I'm here to talk about one case. We got about 1,000 cases in the office. I'm not going to comment on any other case in the office. I would just caution you to not extrapolate too much from one case out of all the things that are happening in our office.
This district has brought a charge of killing of a witness. I can't think of any others. I'm wondering if there are others.
Yeah. I don't know the answer to that. That's a question. That's an answer we could get for you, but I don't know the answer to it, Shelley. We bring charges of obstruction of justice frequently, as you know, but I'm not pulling one off the top of my head that matches this. Sorry. That's okay. Yeah, I'm not in a position to comment on things that are in the public record. That I wouldn't take that as a yes or a no, but I'm limited up here under local rules to talk about what's in the public record.
Can you talk about the arrest? What happened with the arrest this morning?
I'm going to ask ASAC Kelleher to speak to that.
So this morning we had a SWAT team that was in a location where Mr. Farwell was. He was taken into custody. He was driving a truck, gravel hauler, and he was safely taken into custody by the SWAT team, which is, you know, what we strive to achieve every time we do an operation like this.
Neighborhood?
No, he was in Revere.
Not in a neighborhood in Revere, was he on the highway?
No, it was in a shopping plaza in Revere.
Shopping plaza. Did he say anything?
We have not tried to interview him.
That dump truck you're driving, is that his new employment, presumably?
Again, I wouldn't comment on that here at this time, but he was driving the dump truck when he was arrested.
Before your agency got involved, there were other agencies investigating this. Can we expect to see any fallout from those lead investigators from other agencies who were responsible for finding justice in this case and did not?
I think the juncture we're at right now is that we are working with state agencies. We've developed, as I said, new information that we're going to share with our state partners. They're going to make decisions about what charges are appropriate under state law, if any.
Can you tell us who the lead investigator was on this case before your agency got involved?
I can tell you the lead investigator was for our matter, which was the FBI. I don't know, I honestly don't have information on who the lead was in a state investigation. I don't get that type of information.
You've said that you're not, you're looking just to investigate Sandra Birchmore's death. That's the focus of this case, not what law enforcement agencies prior to you did. Is that within your jurisdiction to investigate what those state agencies did?
I think what I said was I'm here to talk about Sandra Birchmore, and I'm not here to talk about other things that are happening in the United States Attorney's Office. It's 125 federal prosecutors doing a lot of different things. In this case, this press conference is about one young woman who we allege, was killed by a Stoughton police officer, Mathew Farwell.
Saying how your investigation might be complicated by the fact that you're going now into federal court where there is this, NE found that it was suicide, the Norfolk County DA's office opted not to pursue it. How does that affect your efforts now to prosecute?
Yep, good question. Look, in evaluating whether to bring charges, we obviously look at all the evidence that's both incriminating and exculpatory. All that gets turned over to defense lawyers. Mr. Farwell will be well represented in this case, and those facts will be put out in front of a jury. We are confident that when all the evidence is presented to a jury, if it gets that far, that those issues will not prevent us from securing a conviction.
Have you done your own, have your own person do an autopsy?
We-
That's come to a different conclusion? I know there's another one out there that's already been reported on.
That's correct. There's an expert witness. I don't want to get into exactly what that person did or didn't because I don't want to mischaracterize it, but it's in the court documents, who has a tremendous amount of experience in this field and has reached a different conclusion.
Just a couple more questions. And just to be clear, you're not going to comment on the other two officers who had sexual relations with Ms. Birchmore?
That's correct.
How unusual is it for a police officer to be charged with a capital offense involving sex with a minor?
It's unusual in my experience. I don't have a full handle on how often this has been done nationwide, but it's an unusual situation. And that's partly why it's so incredibly disturbing.
Anyone else?
Do you have any words of caution to departments that have police explorer programs based on what you learned from your investigation about how this was able to unfold?
Yeah, I'm going to stick to my swim lane. I'm not an expert on police explorer programs, and so I really don't have any intelligent answer to that question.
Thank you.